Hey everyone. Welcome back for the 10th part of What If Naruto Was Raised by the Sannin. As always, huge thanks to all of my Patreons. Making these videos would be impossible without you guys' support, especially with all the restrictions YouTube places on my type of content. As always, the full story is already out over there for you guys along with about 40 other different stories you can enjoy. Also, feel free to send me any messages over there if you have any questions or even if you just want to chat. Link to all of that will be in the description. Anyways, everyone, enjoy the video. Chapter 50. End of the Civil War. And here ends the detour. No. Yagura, come back. Yagura. Aiko screamed as she saw her husband being spirited away by the Akatsuki. Mei looked on as the artificial bird flew away. While some of her Konoha allies could summon flying animals, by the time she managed to contact either of them, the Akatsuki would be far away, probably even beyond the Land of Water's borders. The rebel leader couldn't help but feel a tinge of sympathy for Aiko. The blonde kunoichi had been her mortal enemy not even a minute ago, yet in that minute, her whole world had crumbled. However, it was no time to feel sorry. Mei walked towards the kneeled Aiko, still crying her eyes out. The Kiri ninja besides her looked at Mei apprehensively, but didn't try to stop her. Mei placed a comforting hand on Aiko's shoulder. Aiko-san, what has happened here is tragic, but this isn't over, Mei began. There are fights going on all around the village. We have to stop them before more lives are senselessly wasted. Being the Mizukage's wife, they'll listen to you. Aiko fought back the tears, tried to compose herself, and stood back on her feet. She tried to give Mei a determined stare, but she was unable to hide her sadness. Why yes, Aiko replied. It's just, I can't believe you were right. It's okay, Aiko-san. There may still be time. We can still send a squad of hunter nin to track down Yagura, Mei told her in a reassuring tone, though deep down, she doubted they could save Yagura. But not before stopping the fighting first. If I cooperate, do I have your word that my men will be spared? She asked. Mei nodded in return. You have my word they will. It would be unbelievably cruel of me to punish them for just defending their village. Aiko nodded, and turned towards her men. Everybody, spread and tell our forces to stop fighting, and surrender to the rebels. Meanwhile, back in the streets of Kirigakure, the fights went on. Among those, one of the most intense was the clash between Kisame and the three rebel swordsmen. Despite the numerical disadvantage, it was obvious that Kisame had the upper hand. Despite the wound caused by Zabuza earlier, it had already closed and fully healed, thanks to the chakra absorbed by the living sword Seimata. Water release, multiple water shark bullet. Several watery shark-shaped missiles came from the mass of water, and flew towards the rebel swordsmen with their jaws wide open. Zabuza's hand flew through hand seals as he prepared a counterattack. Water release, water dragon jutsu. Using that same water, Zabuza created a huge, serpentine dragon, but rather than directing it towards Kisame, he made it coil around the three swordsmen, blocking them from Kisame's attack. Amayuri and Chojuro then took the opportunity to leap at Kisame and attack. He may not be able to use ninjutsu directly against me, but he knows how to use it in a defensive manner. Not bad, Zabuza-san. Not bad, Kisame observed, before he directed his attention towards the incoming youths. Die already, you walking fish. Amayuri angrily shouted as she brought down her two swords. Kisame raised his own sword, easily parrying both her and Chojuro's attack. He looked at Amayuri, and laughed. Walking fish? That's the best you can come up with, girl? While he was struggling, Zabuza's body flickered behind him, and raised his sword for the kill. Unfortunately for him, Kisame had noticed the masked swordsman's tactic, and prepared a countermeasure accordingly. As Zabuza was about to attack, a water clone formed between the two senior swordsmen, parrying the attack. Come on Chojuro, it's 2 versus 1. We should be able to overpower him, Amayuri said, as she tried to push harder. You should also count Seimata as your enemy too, girl. It's not like the rest of the swords, Kisame chuckled as he overpowered Amayuri and Chojuro, pushing them back. Now. Hey, Kisame. A voice shouted from the sky. Recognizing his temporary partner, Kisame disengaged the young swordsman and jumped backwards in order to put some safety distance between him and his foes. 2 artificial birds flew towards him, one of them being ridden by his temporary partner and the jinchuriki they came to find. The package is safe and ready to deliver. We need to go, now, Deidara urged him. Aw, so soon? I was having so much fun, Kisame said in a mock-sad tone, before jumping onto the second bird. Guess work comes before pleasure. Alright then, let's go. Of course, it took no time for the rebels to realize that Yagura was with the Akatsuki, and much to their confusion, he wasn't restrained nor unconscious. Then again, that didn't matter, their mission was to either capture or kill Yagura. Letting him escape wasn't an option. Is that, Yagura? Chojuro pointed out as he adjusted his glasses. We can't let them escape, Amayuri said as she spread her arms forward, with the tip of her swords pointing to the sky. This attack will drain all my chakra, but it'll be worth it. I doubt that blonde guy can absorb ninjutsu too. Thunder sword ninja art, Thundergate. Amayuri's sword sent bolts of electricity towards the sky. In a few seconds, all the gathered electricity would be redirected towards the blonde Akatsuki and Yagura in the form of a devastating and impossible to avoid lightning bolt. Too bad she won't be able to complete the jutsu in time. And before we leave, let's give this boring village another taste of my art as a goodbye gift, Deidara said as he dropped several of his clay figurines from above. Zabuza's eyes widened as he realized what was going to happen. Amayuri, cancel the attack. Everybody, duck and cover. Thankfully, the younger swordsmen didn't waste precious time asking him what was going on, and followed their captain's orders. Their curiosity, however, was sated when several explosions rocked the area, explosions that would have engulfed them if they didn't do as Zabuza told them and found a safe place to hide. They spent hidden a few more moments, until they made sure the Akatsuki won't feel like finishing them off. However, once they came out of their hiding spots, they saw that the Akatsuki were far into the sky, with Yagura in their power. This cast a doubt over what would be of their rebellion now. That was a close one. Thanks, Zabuza Teiko, Amayuri told the senior swordsman. It seems you were familiar with his jutsu. Did you met that Akatsuki before? Zabuza shook his head. No, but he appears in my bingo book. Deidara, a missing nin who formerly served Iwa, and one of the best masters of the explosion release despite his young age. That was very knowledgeable of you, Zabuza Teiko, Chojuro praised. Zabuza huffed in response. Of course. Being a ninja isn't just a matter of knowing jutsu or even killing people. Knowledge of your potential enemies is always a must. Alright, and now that Yagura has fled, what do we do now? Do we keep fighting? Amayuri asked. For the time being, yes. Though I presume that, with Yagura gone, the battle should end soon. From now on, let's disperse and support our allies across the village, Zabuza stated. Yes, sir. Amayuri and Chojuro said at once, before leaping away in different directions. With Aiko's help, all the Kirigakure defenders were told to surrender to the rebels. She told everybody that the rebels were right, Yagura was a pawn of the Akatsuki brainwash to weaken the village from the inside, and had been abducted in order to extract his tailed beast once his uselessness had come to an end. Many took the orders with a decent amount of skepticism, but all of them complied in the end, since they did saw the Akatsuki flying on white artificial birds made of clay. The explosives those birds dropped as they flew by were pretty hard to miss. The first one to stop fighting weren't the ninja, but the chakra golems. As most rebels guessed and every loyalist knew, the golems were bound to Yagura, so the moment the Mizukage was too far away from the village, the link was broken and the machines became inert. Thankfully, despite the invasion, the village ended up much less damaged than both invaders and defenders feared. The area with the most damage was, ironically, the one with the least people fighting. But when said people were two jinchuriki, one of them a cage, and the rebel leader, it was only logical. The 2 days following the invasion were the more chaotic. While the loyalist ninja were briefly incarcerated, it didn't last long since they needed all the available hands to help with the reconstruction effort. And when they heard from Aiko's own mouth that yes, the Mizukage had been brainwashed by the Akatsuki, they had no qualms working under the rebels. Some of them even volunteered to be part of Yagura's search and rescue team. The fact that the rebels managed to save Yagura's son from a certain death definitely helped to ease tensions a lot. And after 2 days, they decided it was time for a new cage to take the hat. While the palace wasn't completely repaired, it was good enough for the ceremony to be held. A large crowd formed in front of the palace, composed of mostly civilians, Kirigakure ninja, all of them wearing the rebel blue uniform, since the red one has been discarded in Konoha ninja. The 6 swordsmen were proudly standing at the front. Miyako could finally show her helmet splitter, while Suigetsu and Kumori were given the sewing needle and the splatter, respectively. Whoa, she did have a boyfriend, Suigetsu exclaimed to himself, as when he got sight of Karen holding hands with Neji. And a hot one to boot. How did that red-headed nerd got to date such a guy outside her league? The white-haired teen asked, before being shushed by Amayuri. Ao appeared in the palace's central balcony, and addressed the crowd. People of Kirigakure, friends of Konoha, without further ado, meet Kirigakure's 5th Mizukage, May Terumi. Ao announced, as he took a step back. Wearing her usual clothes, with the Mizukage's hat covering her head, May walked into the balcony, and gazed at the crowd below. For a long time, Kirigakure had been nothing but a pawn of a terrorist organization, and locked in a civil war. But that time is over. Today, a new era begins. An era in which civilians and foreigners won't fear us nor think of us as bloodthirsty savages, but admire us for our strength and unbreakable resolve, May shouted, and her speech was met with a huge uproar. There are still many things to do. We need to rebuild our beautiful village. And healing the wounds caused over the past years on both sides will be a long and hard process. But I have faith that together, we will be able to do it. Naruto and his friends were among the crowd, clapping and cheering for May. They were happy that, after such a brutal battle, the civil war had finally ended, and Kirigakure would enter a new, better age. So, how was fighting the Mizukage, Naruto? Kurenai asked the blonde. Naruto sighed upon remembering the battle, but then grinned. The most brutal fight ever. There were times I thought I was a goner, but not even a perfect jinchuriki can stand before my awesomeness. Naruto boasted. I'd wish I was there to help you, Naruto-kun, Hinata told him, as she held his hand. The thought of you having to fight such an opponent with no help other than Mei-san was distressing. Aw, you don't have to worry for me, Hinata Haim. Besides, I don't think I would have been able to focus properly if you were there. Yagura was a tough opponent, and you could have been seriously hurt, Naruto told her. I know, Hinata said, not without resignation. This made me realize that I have to be stronger if I ever want to fight alongside you. Don't feel bad for not being able to measure to a cage, Hinata-san, Haku reassured her. Zabuza-sama is a strong and skilled ninja, and he was no match for Yagura either. Speaking of the devil, Kurenai mentioned, as she nodded forward. The group then noticed that Zabuza was heading towards them. It was obvious what he wanted. Wordlessly, Haku walked towards the swordsman, while the rest of his team stayed behind, but carefully watched the scene. Zabuza-sama, Haku greeted him. Haku, there's something I need to talk you about, Zabuza began. Since the day I took you in, you've been my greatest asset. Skilled, obedient, and incredibly loyal. Not only you helped me during countless dangerous situations, but your mere presence even spared me from being executed when the Uchiha insurrection failed. And when the time came to bring the fight back to Yagura, you were by my side. I could have never asked for a better tool to fulfill my ambitions. I'm happy to hear that, Zabuza-sama, Haku said with a slight head bow. I live to fight for you, and always will. That's the problem, Haku, Zabuza said, much to the ice ninja's shock. What? Zabuza-sama, is there something wrong? Haku titled his head in confusion. Even if I'm not Mizukage yet, I'm the closest I've ever been to fulfill my ambitions. Being the captain of the 7 swordsmen of the mist grants me the best chance to become Mizukage, and I know that May won't hold on to the hat forever. However, what remains of the path, I can walk it alone. I have no more use for you, Haku. Your usefulness has come to an end, Zabuza coldly stated. Despite the harshness those words were coded in, Haku's heart was filled with rejoice, as he gasped in pleasant surprise. Zabuza-sama, does that mean? Haku dared to ask. Zabuza nodded. Yes. Since I do not require your help anymore, you can stay in Konoha if you wish to do so. Haku didn't say anything, just remained there, silent, and motionless. Despite being a native of the land of water and loving Zabuza like a father, he didn't want to leave Konoha. He had grown there, and grew to see it as his home. In fact, he had already prepared to leave his life behind in order to continue working under Zabuza. Yet now, he was told that he wouldn't have to give that up. Overwhelmed with joy, Haku jumped forward and wrapped his arms around Zabuza. While startled at first, Zabuza hugged his protege back, this time without anybody having to tell him to. Thank you, Zabuza-sama. Thank you for everything. Haku softly said as tears started to come from his eyes. It's okay, kid. You did a good job. Consider this as your reward, Zabuza said as he himself was fighting back the tears. They broke the embrace, and looked at each other in the eye. If you ever need me, Zabuza-sama, you can always call me. I'll never turn down a request from you, Haku said. Zabuza smirked under his mask. For the time being, that won't be necessary, but I'll keep that in mind. Haku, Naruto shouted as he glomped his teammate. You're staying. That's so great. Indeed it is. When a team loses a member, it never goes back to the way it used to be, even with a replacement, Kurenai said. Thank you for letting Haku stay with us, Zabuza-san. I know you must have grown to love Haku like a son, and it must be really hard for you to let him go. Hinata thanked Zabuza as he made a bow. Like a son? What nonsense are you talking about, girl? Zabuza asked, visibly nervous. Haku is nothing but a tool to me, no more. Both Kurenai and Hinata couldn't help but giggle in amusement, while Haku smiled knowingly. They decided it would probably be for the best not to tease the swordsman too much. Well, I think everything that had to be said has been said already. Before you leave, Haku, May wants to have one last talk with you, so follow me, Zabuza said as he turned around and walked towards the palace. Hey, Zabuza, wait a second. Naruto called. Zabuza turned around and glared at the blonde. What do you want, brat? I just remembered something. I need to talk with May, with the Mizukage, too, about an important issue, Naruto began. Say no more, brat. Follow me, Zabuza said as he continued walking towards the palace, with Naruto and Haku behind. Mizukage's palace. While Naruto had been in the Mizukage's palace not even a week ago when he stormed it alongside May, he didn't have the time to admire it. Unlike the Hokage's tower, which has a rather plain and utilitarian design on the inside, the Mizukage's palace had much more emphasis on decoration. The floors were covered in beautiful rugs, plenty of pictures of the Land of Water's landscape, alongside portraits of some of Kirigakura's most prominent past ninja. Multiple weapons also decorated the walls. The trio eventually reached a double door, which Naruto guessed it would be the palace's council room. His guess was proven right when Zabuza opened the door, and they saw May talking with some of her ninja, and some civilians. When May looked at the newcomers, she smiled. Oh, good, you're here. May then turned towards the people she was talking to. Can we continue this discussion later? I need to discuss something with these Konoha ninja before they leave. Of course, Mizukage-sama, one of the ninja replied, before he and the rest of them left May alone with Zabuza, Haku, and Naruto. Here is Haku, Zabuza announced. Naruto wanted to tag along. Said he had something important to discuss with you. I guessed you could spend some time hearing him before he leaves. Of course. Thanks for being so swift, Zabuza-kun. You can leave now, May politely dismissed him. Mizukage-sama, Zabuza replied with a slight bow, before leaving quietly. Wow. I never thought I'd see Zabuza acting so submissive towards anybody, Haku noticed, rather surprised. You certainly made an impression when you fought against him, Mizukage-sama. May's smile grew. Zabuza-kun needs a strong woman that can set him straight and put him in his place. He also needs a woman so he can blow some steam, if you know what I mean, May replied, as she winked at both Haku and Naruto. Both boys started to blush like crazy and smile awkwardly. May's smile vanished, and let out a weary sigh. And I need to blow some steam too, and I'm not talking about my bloodline limit. Kami knows when was the last time I had some action. With all due respect, Mizukage-sama, but I presume you didn't call me to talk about your more intimate aspects of your personal life, right? Haku asked, hoping the answer would be no. Oh, right, sorry. Guess I got a bit carried away, hee. May chuckled as well. You see, thanks to Konoha's help, we managed to oust Yagura and unite Kirigakura. Given how valuable allies they turned out to be, I'm planning a series of measures to strengthen our bonds. Among them, is the establishment of an embassy in Konoha. Naturally, Konoha can also establish an embassy here if the Hokage wishes to, May said, looking at Naruto. The blonde got the hint. Right. I'll tell Dad when we arrive home. That's an excellent idea, but may I ask what it has to do with me? Haku asked. May chuckled again. It isn't obvious, Haku-kun? I want you to become Kiri's ambassador in Konoha. You will be the link that keeps the two villages together. While I'm honored to see you want me to take such a position, I don't think I may be the most appropriate candidate. I'm not even a Kiri ninja, Haku countered. I know. But you're a Land of Water native. And don't forget that, besides the training you got from Konoha, you were also instructed by my current captain of the Seven Swordsmen. So in a way, that makes you both a Konoha and a Kiri ninja. And that makes you the ideal candidate to become our ambassador, May explained. I guess I can't argue against such arguments. Therefore, I accept being Kirigakura's ambassador in Konoha, Haku said, as he bowed politely. Good, I knew we'd reach an understanding. This yours, by the way, May said, as he handled Haku a Kirigakura forehead protector. You can wear it alongside your Konoha one, if you choose to. I will wear it with pride, Mizukage-sama, Haku replied. Good. You can leave if you wish. And now that's settled. Mei then turned towards Naruto, who was waiting for her to be done with Haku. I believe Zabuza-kun said there was something you need to discuss with me? Indeed it is, Naruto replied. Remember those golems we had to fight during the war? Hard to forget them. Something that can absorb ninjutsu like that is my natural enemy, Mei chuckled. What about those? The seals they used to power up the golems, their ninjutsu absorption abilities, they were all Uzumaki seals, Naruto pointed out. Oh. Mei replied in realization. I know those seals were the spoils of a war that happened before the two of us were even born, but since you want to improve the relationship between our villages even further, it would be nice if you return the stolen sealing knowledge to their original owners. The Uzumaki clan still exists in Konoha, even if we're just 3 people, Naruto explained. Once again, Mei smiled tenderly at Naruto. Of course, Naruto-kun. Having not 1, but 2 bloodline limits myself, I know better than anybody the importance of a clan treasure. I'll order the original scrolls and books that were plundered from Kirigakure to be handed to you before you leave. Naruto earnestly smiled in joy. You mean it? You have my word. It's the least I can do, given how much you helped me against Yagura, Mei told him. Really? Thanks a lot. I'd thought you'd be more resistant to give them back, but I'm glad you weren't. Anyway, that's all what you wanted to tell you. Good luck with the whole Mizukage thing. One day, I'll be your equal as the Hokage. Naruto cheerfully said. Mei laughed softly. I'm sure you will, Naruto-kun. Have a nice trip back. Naruto nodded and left the council room. Once she was alone, Mei allowed herself to smile. Oh, children were so naive and easily to trick. Sure, she was going to return the original scrolls and books to the Uzumaki clan. After all what Konoha did for her, that would have been extremely rude, not to mention foolish. Too bad Naruto didn't say anything about all the copies the previous Mizukage had made of such sealing knowledge. With everything said and done, there was nothing left for the Konoha ninja to do in Kiri, so they decided it was time for them to return home. Most Konoha ninja had already boarded the ship that would take them back to the Land of Fire. Only a few of them remained. Among them, Haku Yuki. The ice ninja was about to say goodbye to the most important person in his life, Zabuza. Mei was also there to bid the Konoha ninja goodbye. Well, kid, this is it. From now onwards, our paths will diverge, Zabuza said, his voice having a tinge of melancholy. I know I said this already, but if you ever need me, don't hesitate to send me a message, Haku insisted. Thanks for everything, Zabuza-sama. It was thanks to you that I got a second chance at life, and I'll never forget what you did for me. I'll never forget what you did for me, either, Zabuza replied. But don't be so down. I'm sure we will meet again, sooner than you expect. Haku nodded. He then turned at Mei, and in front of her, he pulled out the Kirigakure forehead protector, and wore it on his neck like Hinata did, since he was already wearing the Konoha forehead protector there, like Naruto and most Konoha ninja did. Thank you to you as well, Mizukage-sama. I'll keep working on making Konoha and Kiri's bond even stronger, Haku promised her. I have no doubt you will, Mei smiled tenderly at him. Now you better get into the ship. All your friends are already on board, and I'm sure all of you want to get back home. Indeed. Goodbye then, Haku said, before making a polite bow, and got into the ship. As the last Konoha ninja boarded, the access stairs were removed, and the ship started to move. Wordlessly, Zabuza turned around and started to walk. Mei walked beside him. You did the right thing, Zabuza-kun, Mei reassured, as he patted the swordsman in the shoulder. The kid will be better in Konoha. Zabuza sighed. In moments like this, I miss the times in which I wasn't ruled by any kind of moral compass. For a split second, Mei could have sworn she saw tears forming on Zabuza's eyes. Haku was leaning against the ship's railing, watching Kirigakure become smaller and smaller as the ship departed. Zabuza has been there to bid him a goodbye. It was short and to the point, like most of the time he opened his mouth. Everything all right, Haku? Haku noticed that Naruto and Hinata were beside him. Haku smiled a little, and nodded. Yeah, I'm fine, don't worry, Haku reassured them. Come on Haku, we can see something troubles you, Hinata insisted. It's not much. It's that, well, I never imagined the day Zabuza-sama and I would part ways, Haku confessed. I thought I would always be at his side, And if there was a time in which we wouldn't be together, it would be because one of us wouldn't be among the living. It has to be hard, leaving somebody like him behind. Despite his rough exterior, he really cared about you, Hinata replied. Indeed it is. But I know Zabuza-sama will be fine without me. And one day in the future, we'll hear the news about how he has become the 6th Mizukage, Haku hopefully guessed. Let's hope this time around he tries a less violent method, hee, Naruto joked. Anyway, did you tell Tenten about the news? It was the first thing I did after I left the Mizukage's palace. She couldn't be happier. Despite her promise to move to Kiri if I stayed here, I can tell she really didn't want to go with it. Konoha is her home. And truth be told, it's also mine, Haku admitted. We're also really glad that you're staying with us. If you left and they forced some new chump into our team, that would be so lame. Thank goodness it's never going to happen, Naruto said. The three of them laughed merrily at the idea. No, their team would remain solid and stable until the three of them retired as ninja. Or at least, that's what they hoped. There you are, Naruto, a new voice said. The assault squad turned around, and saw Sasuke looking at them. May I talk with you? Before Naruto could reply, Haku and Hinata decided to leave the deck, leaving the two of them alone. We'll go to the dining room to eat something. We'll wait you there, Naruto-kun, Hinata told him as he left. Naruto nodded, and then turned at Sasuke. So, what do you want to talk about? You fought against Yagura alongside May, Sasuke stated. Was he really mind-controlled like they said? Sadness began to creep Naruto's face, as he regretfully nodded. Yes. Judging by your mood, I presume you weren't successful in breaking the mind control, the Uchiha inquired, though it was pretty much a statement. No. Akatsuki got in the way before we could. At this point, the poor guy has to be dead, Naruto replied, as he let out a weary sigh. Why do you ask? Does it remind you of the time I was mind-controlled? Indeed, Sasuke laconically answered. There's not a single day in which I don't ask myself what would have happened if I failed to break the mind control. That was the most intense fight I ever had, and even if in the future I... Sorry for being rude, but, what is your point? Naruto interrupted. This is not something I like to wallow in, given my failure. Sorry, guess I digressed, Sasuke replied, his tone unchanged. I was going to say that, if you want to talk with someone about it, you can tell me. Naruto was taken aback by Sasuke's sudden openness. Usually, the Uchiha wasn't the most social or welcoming person. What? Sasuke asked, noticing Naruto's reaction. You think I won't understand? No, it's not that. It's that. Naruto began, trying to find the best way to word it. It's just that, well, you're not the kind of person to offer emotional support to others, you know? Sasuke scowled a bit. He grumbled, as he fixed a stare at Naruto, who chuckled awkwardly. I know I never valued personal relationships much before. But then again, you were one of the few who offered me as support after my clan rebelled, and I'd like to return you the favor. Oh. Well, thanks. It means a lot to me, Naruto sincerely replied. Yagura, since he was also a jinchuriki, did you feel any kind of kinship towards him? Sasuke asked. Yeah. He didn't deserve this, Naruto said. He got a target on his back the moment he was made a jinchuriki, whenever it was, just like it happened with me. Hell, did you know that the whole Uchiha insurrection was orchestrated by Obito just to create a smokescreen in order to get into the village and kidnap me? And I'm sure Orochimaru's invasion served a similar purpose. That's not even getting to my biological parents, Naruto bitterly recounted. Despite we technically won, it really didn't feel like a victory. The only ones who won were the Akatsuki. Kirigakure may be at peace now, but they lost plenty of their ninja in a senseless conflict, their cage among them. Sasuke didn't say anything, just kept listening to the blonde. He always found him so upbeat and optimist to the point of obnoxiousness, so seeing Naruto showing such an unknown side of him was a sight to behold. Not that it made anything he said any less true. There will always be scumbags like Obito and his Akatsuki pals who won't rest until they can get their hands on us, or better said, our tailed beasts, for whatever purposes they may have, Naruto continued. And do you know what's the worst part? All the collateral damage. All the people who die and suffer that have nothing to do with this. Sasuke looked pensive. He then opened his mouth. That makes me think that there may be other turmoil in foreign villages regarding their jinchuriki that we may not even be aware of, the Uchiha pointed out. Naruto opened his eyes in realization. Whoa, you're right, he said. Too bad there's nothing we can do about them, Sasuke replied. Naruto scowled at the Uchiha. Says you. No, say international borders. Naruto, I know that protecting the remaining jinchuriki is important, but we can't meddle into other villages' affairs because we feel like it, Sasuke explained. Then I won't rest until Dad talks with other Kage and forms some sort of plan or coalition, Naruto suggested. Not to sound like a contrarian, but that might be way harder than you think, Sasuke warned Naruto. Such action might be seen as Konoha trying to meddle with other villages' affairs. And from what Itachi and Shisui told me, they can be rather touchy when it comes to jinchuriki. I know, but I can't just sit down and do nothing. I can't let what happened with Yagura to happen again, a determined Naruto said. So far, I know Gaara from Suna, and Fu from Taki. Kumo also had that weird rapping guy. Besides Yagura, there are other 4 jinchuriki we know nothing about their whereabouts. Whatever you plan to do, you can count me in, Sasuke told him. Naruto smiled sincerely at the Uchiha. Thanks a lot, Sasuke. That means a lot. In a rare display, Sasuke smiled back. Konoha, a few days later. Hokage-sama, the group sent to Kirigakure has returned to the village a few minutes ago, an owl-masked Anbu told Jiraiya. The Sannin was busy as usual with the never-ending paperwork when an Anbu appeared to deliver the news. Jiraiya often wondered how they were doing in Kirigakure. That is, until he got a letter in which he was told that Yagura was no longer Mizukage, and that May Terumi had been recently inaugurated. That told him almost everything he needed to know, and knew that his ninja would come home any time now. Good. Did all of them make it back? Jiraiya asked. The Anbu shook his head. Negative, sir. We had reported 11 casualties. 8 Chunin and 3 Jonin, the Anbu informed. Jiraiya weighed those words. While the Konoha casualties were less than 10% of the group that left with May, it was still disheartening to hear about them. Understood. Tell me their names so I can write a proper condolence letter to their families, Jiraiya instructed. Also, I want to have a meeting with all the Jonin to hear from them how the campaign went. As you command, Hokage-sama, the Anbu said, but he didn't leave just yet. One more thing, your son is here. He wishes to speak with you. Jiraiya smiled upon seeing this. Ah, good. So nice of Naruto to drop to see his old man, hee hee. Tell him to come in. The Anbu nodded, and left the office. A couple seconds later, the Hokage's adoptive son walked in. Hey, Dad, Naruto softly greeted. Naruto, it's so great to have you back. Jiraiya happily greeted his son back. Take a seat. Come on, tell me everything. How was the mission? It was good, Naruto said as he sat down in front of the Sannin. Yagura's reign of terror came to an end, and May is now Mizukage. Kirigakure is no longer embroiled in a civil war. Despite the good news, Jiraiya frowned. He knew Naruto far too well to know that there was something more to those news. Naruto looked far way too subdued, to the point of sounding melancholic. There was something wrong going on that was eating him from the inside. But not everything went as good as you make it look, right? Jiraiya guessed. Did something bad happen? Was any of the deceased close to you? Yes. Well, no. I mean, yes, but not in that way. Naruto was starting to get confused. You see, the fight against Yagura didn't go as planned. But Yagura was ousted. Did you kill him? Jiraiya asked. Listen, I know that it had to be hard to kill a fellow jinchuriki, but sometimes. No, it's not that. Yagura is probably dead right now, but I didn't kill him. Akatsuki did, Naruto said. Those words took Jiraiya aback. The Sannin raised an eyebrow, as he fixed a questioning stare on his godson. Come again? You see, May and I were fighting against Yagura, right? And things were going fine. Turn out those seals you made to keep the 9 tails in check worked with the 3 tails too, so we were able to nullify his power. Anyway, the thing is, an Akatsuki appeared and got involved. We were pretty exhausted, so we weren't able to put much of a fight against him. He took Yagura away, and left, Naruto said, summarizing the turns of events as good as he could. Turns out he was mind-controlled. That Akatsuki said something weird, and Yagura became his puppet. That's how he was able to spirit him away so easily. That is, troubling news indeed, Jiraiya gravely said, as he weighed down Naruto's words. Did he try to capture you as well? Naruto shook his head once again. No. He didn't pay me any attention. Guess he didn't know who I was, or else he would have tried to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Then again, I wish he did try to capture me. I was still in sage mode, and I think I could have freed Yagura before he could fly away. The Akatsuki flew away? Jiraiya asked. Naruto nodded. The guy had some weird-ass bloodline limit that could create figures of clay that exploded. He used a giant clay bird to fly. Clay? Explosions? Jiraiya asked, as he opened a drawer on his desk and pulled out a bingo book. He quickly flipped through the pages, until he found the one he was looking for. Was this the man? Naruto took a look at the profile, and upon seeing the picture, he nodded. Yeah, that's him. So, his name's Deidara? You know about him? I heard about him, but never met him in person. A young prodigy of Iwa that liked explosions too much for his own good. He defected from Iwa after stealing some forbidden knowledge regarding explosion jutsu. He then became a freelance mercenary, and worked for several terrorist groups, Jiraiya explained. Though I never imagined that he'd join Akatsuki. While troubling, at least we have some more intelligence on the enemy. He wasn't alone. He brought another Akatsuki. I think his name is Kasumi? No, that's a girl name. Kisame? Yeah, Kisame. He also has one of Kiri's 7 swords. This time, the news didn't shock him as much, since he knew from May what Kisame was doing now. Anyway, the thing is, Yagura was captured by the Akatsuki, and now they probably have the 3 tails. Naruto then fixed an intense stare on his father. Dad, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. Akatsuki can't have more jinchuriki. Don't worry, son. I have extensive data on all current jinchuriki. Though sadly, I guess that information on Yagura won't be of much importance in the future, Jiraiya said. Our allies of Suna and Taki are already aware of the Akatsuki threat. From what I know, 2 of the jinchuriki are from Iwa, and the other 2 from Kumo. I'll try to contact them and see if we can work together on this issue. What about the remaining one? Naruto asked. You must be talking about Utakata. That's going to be a little trickier, since he doesn't work under any village, despite hailing from Kirigakure. He's a vagrant and a wanderer, and given his condition, he'll try to keep a low profile, Jiraiya explained. Then again, while that might work against us, it will also make Akatsuki's job all the harder. But don't worry, once Itachi comes back from his mission, I'll tell him to work on this. Naruto smiled in relief. Thank you, Dad. That's what I wanted to hear. While I know it's mostly a matter of security, protecting the other jinchuriki means a lot to me. Don't sweat it, son, Jiraiya replied. By the way, is anybody at home? Mom, the twins? Naruto asked. Tsunade Haim is in the hospital, working, and I guess your siblings are still in the academy. So I think the house is going to be a bit empty until it's lunchtime, Jiraiya told him. Alright then. I'll hang out with Hinata Haim a bit more then. See you later. Naruto replied, as he walked out of the office. Same. Good to see you made it back in one piece, kid. Root lair, somewhere under Konoha. Inside a dark instance illuminated by a few oil lamps, Danzo and some of his most loyal agents were gathered. While the elderly leader of Root was standing in front of a kneeling boy, the rest of his men inspected several large scrolls. Uzumaki knowledge that was thought to be lost forever, including the schematics for chakra golems, Danzo said. Sending you to take part in the civil war was a good decision, Sai. You made a good job. Thanks, Danzo-sama. I live only to serve Konoha, Sai stated. During the journey back home, Sai had infiltrated the ship's cargo, and made copies of all the Fuinjutsu scrolls and books he could. Sai was somebody that rarely stood out, so almost nobody noticed his prolonged absence. His lack of friends or meaningful connections also worked in his favor, since nobody really missed him. Even Sasuke and Sakura, the ones who openly showed distrust of him, seemed to pay him no mind. Were you able to obtain one of the chakra golems so we could reverse engineer them? Danzo asked, sounding a bit disappointed. Unfortunately, we were only able to take with us a limited number of them. If one of them disappeared, somebody would have noticed it rather soon, Sai explained. So I decided to follow my judgment and not steal one of those. I can't find anything wrong with that line of thinking, so you're excused this time. Guess the blueprints will have to do for now, Danzo decided. However, I also brought something else that it might be very helpful, Danzo-sama, Sai said, as he pulled out a small sealing scroll from his pocket, and handed it to his superior. Danzo took the scroll, and unsealing its contents. A lone, severed finger appeared before him. Explain, the one-eyed man demanded. That finger belongs to Rin Nohara, the one who came back from the dead, and is now the power of the wood release. I thought it was something you'd want to have, Sai replied. Danzo sealed the finger back again into the scroll, and put it under the folds of his robe. Indeed I do, Sai. You did good work. Now, leave. You're dismissed, Danzo said. Sai nodded. As you wish, Danzo-sama. And the pale boy left, leaving the elder alone. Danzo couldn't believe his luck. He had been trying to gather some DNA sample from Rin since the moment his agents revealed the way she had been revived and the abilities she possessed now. So far, all his men could gather were hair strands, but that wasn't enough. Now, Sai had brought him a sample of flesh, blood and bone in perfect state. Yes, this would make great strides in his research regarding Hashirama's power. Soon, Danzo would have enough strength to become the leader he was always meant to be, and nobody would get in his way. Forests of the Land of Fire. A new day arrived for the inhabitants of the green ocean of leaves and branches known as the Land of Fire. As nocturnal animals returned to their lairs, diurnal ones exited theirs and took their place. Herbivores started to eat from the green grass and green leaves from the many lush trees, while predators stalked what would be their daily meals. However, today it wasn't going to be a normal day in the forest. Today, the forest would receive a new inhabitant, if briefly. Wind started to blow. Softly at first, but stronger over time. It didn't come from the clash of cold and hot air currents, as normal wind does, but from a certain point in the forest. A clear among the trees, that became much bigger thanks to a clash between several human ninja. Yes, in that clear, more than a year ago, Jiraiya and Anko fought against the resurrected Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Fortunately, Minato and Kushina's love for their son gave them a sense of closure, and were able to return to the afterlife. Back then, it looked like it was the end of their battle. What neither Jiraiya, nor Minato, nor even Orochimaru knew, is that such action brought back somebody else from the guts of the Reaper. The wind continued to blow out, this time with more intensity. The animals that were wandering the area stopped what they were doing, and ran away, no matter the direction. Their instincts told them that something was about to happen, and they shouldn't be there. After a few seconds, red threads of chakra started to gather in the clear. More and more red chakra gathered, forming a red sphere. The sphere started to grow as it became whole. Then, once the process was complete, the sphere changed shape, and took the form of an animal. A fox. A gigantic fox. A gigantic fox with 9 tails. The beast opened his eyes, and looked around, confused. He tried to remember, but he couldn't. He didn't know anything. Who he was, where he was, what he was supposed to do. Oh well, he could always find out for himself. As the fox left, a white Zetsu emerged from the grass. This is a most interesting turns of events, he said to no one in particular. I should warn the boss about this. And the Zetsu sank back into the grass. Chapter 51. The wind stops blowing. Or, when the sand explodes. 15.5 years since the Nine Tails attacked. A year had passed since the Kirigakure Civil War came to an end, thanks to May Terumi recruiting Konoha ninja to her side. After she was inaugurated as the 5th Mizukage, she and Jiraiya wasted no time in formalizing an alliance treaty. With both Suna and Kiri as its allies, the future seemed bright for Konoha. Seemed being the key word. Turns out Suna hated Kiri with a passion. During the previous war, they sent Pakura, one of Suna's strongest ninja, and a hero the village looked up, to formalize an alliance with them. However, the Kiri ninja betrayed Suna and ambushed Pakura and her squad, revealing that their intention was to kill one of Suna's greatest ninja. Suna never forgot such transgression. So naturally, when the news of Konoha's alliance with Kiri reached Suna, the Kazekage wasted no time and expressed his thoughts in a rather colorful letter to the Hokage. Jiraiya learned at least 5 swear words he wasn't even aware they existed after reading that letter. It took almost a whole year to smooth things up, in which multiple negotiations and diplomatic visits had to be made. Jiraiya was really thankful for keeping his old sensei around as an advisor, as Sarutobi's diplomatic skills saved his skin multiple times. Even then, it took giving Raza a few chakra golems with Naruto and Karen's explicit permission to satisfy him. The fact that Kirigakure was under new leadership helped to alleviate some of the tensions between Suna and Kiri. Eventually, they did manage to convince the Kazekage to let go of the old hatred of Kiri, and form a 3-way alliance with them and Konoha. However, Kiri had to make quite a few concessions, some of them of the monetary kind, but in the end, everybody was happy. Right now, the long, arduous process was finally coming to an end. The Kazekage had sent his own children to Konoha in order to deliver the final draft of the alliance treaty Jiraiya had to sign in order to make it effective. Raza, however, had forced May to come to Suna to sign the treaty herself. Given the circumstances, she had no choice but to comply. Right now, both parties were gathered at the Hokage's Tower Council room. Jiraiya was surrounded by his 4 advisors, Sarutobi, Koharu, Homura, and Danzo, with the document on the table in front of him. At the other side of the table were Gaara and Kankuro. Wordlessly, Jiraiya took out a pen, and signed the document. Alright then, this should be it. Jiraiya picked the document as he got up from his chair, walked towards Gaara, and handed him the piece of paper. That was quicker than I expected, Gaara said, as he took the paper from Jiraiya's hands. Don't you want to negotiate more? I discussed this with my advisors, and we found your father's terms pretty reasonable. Even Danzo, and that should say something. Jiraiya laughed as he looked at Danzo, who shot him a neutral stare with his one eye. Besides, after this year, I'm pretty sick of negotiations. So send your father our regards, and tell him that Konoha will always be a friend of Suna, Sarutobi interjected. Don't worry, he already knows that, even if he doesn't really show it, Kankuro assured. It's just, well, your alliance with Kiri really pissed him off. It's like if we decided to ally with Orochimaru without telling you first. Jiraiya chuckled. Honestly, I can't picture that. But yeah, I can empathize with him. Hopefully, we can put this mess behind us. Yes, Gaara agreed. Well, as much as I'd like to stay more, father wants us to deliver him the treaty as soon as it was signed. So we will pick Temari up and leave. Sad, but understandable, Jiraiya said. Anyway, have a good trip back home. Thank you, Hokage Dono, Gaara said as he made a polite bow, before he and Kankuro left. They walked outside of the tower, and saw Naruto and Hinata still there. The couple had walked with the brothers to the tower and told them they would wait for them when the meeting was over. Gaara told them not to since it could last several hours, but in the end, it ended up being as short as Naruto had expected. So, I presume everything went all right? Naruto asked with a hopeful grin. Gaara nodded. Indeed. I was expecting for Hokage Dono to try to negotiate better terms, but he's a far more generous leader than most. Hey, yes, Dad knows the value of friends and allies, Naruto chuckled. So, what now? Now that the treaty is signed, we need to return to Suna as soon as possible and deliver it to father, Gaara replied. Naruto deflated a little. Aw, shucks. I was hoping you guys would stay a little more. I feel I haven't seen you guys in forever. Don't worry, we'll return to see the Chunin exams, Kankuro told them. Temari is planning to enter her Jinan team for the exams, so we'll come to help her. Ah, the Chunin exams, Naruto said, as he became a little nostalgic. It feel like they were so long ago, given that all of us are Jonin now. Well, I'm just special Jonin, but hopefully I'll become one soon, Hinata said, rubbing her arm. Then again, so is Haku-kun. By the way, where is he? Gaara asked. I wanted to have a chance to talk with him as well, yet I didn't see him. Haku-kun is a bit busy now. Yugao-san and Hayate-san had a child recently, so Haku-kun is a bit busy helping them taking care of the little boy. His name's Seiichi, by the way, Hinata explained. In a way, I can understand him. Shizune Nichin also had a second child, and she sometimes calls me whenever she needs a babysitter for her and Shiro, Naruto explained. Shizune and Shisui had decided to call their daughter Shizuka. The name got even more groans and eye rolls when they decided on it. Speaking of the absent, where is Temari-san? I thought she would be present for the signing of the treaty, Hinata inquired. Kankuro snorted dismissively. She wanted to spend some time with Pineapple Head, Kankuro said, rolling his eyes. I'm betting the two of them are having some fun while we are here stuck doing all the boring diplomatic chores. Training Ground 10. I'm so not having fun right now, Shikamaru cried as he barely avoided a powerful gust of wind, which shattered into splinters a tree stump. Really? Because I'm having a blast here, Temari laughed as she prepared her giant folding fan for another attack. Shikamaru knew he had no one but himself to blame for this. He promised he'd give the Suna Kunoichi the rematch she demanded since his first Chunin exams. Whenever he would meet Temari, and he did meet with her a lot during the past year, she would always bring that up, but Shikamaru wanted to leave it for the next time, arguing that Ni needed to train more in order to be a match for her. Which wasn't a complete lie either. However, Temari couldn't wait anymore, and pretty much forced him to fight her before she would leave for Suna. Shikamaru realized he couldn't delay their clash for any longer, and decided to get over it already. Feeling it was his time to attack, Shikamaru's hands flew through hand seals. Fire release, Great Flame Jutsu. Shikamaru took a deep breath, and exhaled a large stream of fire at Temari, which widened as it flew. Temari just shook her head, and smirked. TSK, still thinking you can defeat me because your affinity beats mine, Temari confidently said as she wounded back her giant battle fan. Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. Temari motioned her fan forward, creating a powerful gust of wind that stopped the fire stream right on its tracks. The fire stream then burst into a multitude of embers, that set several parts of the battleground on fire. Temari smirked confidently as she stopped her opponent's attack, but her smile disappeared the moment a realization dawned upon her. Wait a minute, the flames, they're casting shed, she started to realize. Shadow Imitation Jutsu. With all the shadows created by the small flames scattered across the battlefield, Shikamaru could expand and extend his shadow far beyond his usual limit, and catch Temari from a safe distance. The Sunakunoichi started to run and jump around, trying to avoid the multiple shadow threads attempting to bind her shadow. She did try to get closer to Shikamaru in order to counterattack, but the Nara was cleverly pushing her away from him with his jutsu. Enough, Temari said as she reached for something inside her ninja tool pouch, before tossing it at her feet. A cloud of smoke formed, hiding her from Shikamaru's eyes. He probed the cloud with his shadow threads, but was unable to find Temari. And before he had time to keep probing, several shuriken flew out of the cloud of smoke towards him. Having no other option, Shikamaru cancelled the jutsu and jumped sideways in order to avoid them. Now's my chance, Temari said as prepared to attack. She then motioned her giant folding fan downwards, creating a gust of wind under her. She then hopped onto her fan, and flew on it as if it was some sort of glider. This has to be a joke. Joke or not, Temari was coming from him from the air. He could barely jump and hit the dirt before Temari passed over him. Unfortunately, the danger wasn't over, since Temari maneuvered her fan to spin around, and glided at him once again, a sadistic smile on her lips. Troublesome woman, Shikamaru muttered as he rummaged through his ninja tool pouch, in order to find something that could save his ass. Take this. Shikamaru tossed a handful of kunai and shuriken at the flying kunoichi. While it looked like a lame counterattack at first, it proved to be effective as Temari had nothing to protect herself with, and was forced to jump out of her fan, which fell to the ground a few meters from her. Now that she's unarmed, this is my chance, Shikamaru said as he pulled out several kunai with explosive tags attached to it, and tossed them to the intermediate space between Temari and her fan. Whatever you're planning, it won't work, Temari declared as she boldly rushed through the improvised minefield. Explosions went off as she passed the tags, but she soldiered on. With one final leap, she landed beside her fan, and recovered her trusty weapon. You failed, Shikamaru. You think so? Shikamaru's voice said behind the cloud of dirt and dust the explosions had created. Shadow Imitation Jutsu. Once again, several shadow threads appeared from the vanishing cloud of dust, but Temari wasn't deterred. Trying to put me on the defensive again? Ha, fat chance, Temari said as he blew her fan once again. Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. Temari made sure to put as much chakra into the attack as possible in order to give it enough power to reach and hit Shikamaru. She felt her body going stiff as Shikamaru's jutsu bind her shadow, but it would be temporary. The gust of wind caught the Nara, and violently hurled him against a tree. Yes. She cheered. However, there was something wrong. Despite cancelling the jutsu, Temari didn't recover her mobility. She looked down, and saw that the shadow thread was gone. Then how is that she couldn't move anymore? Was that a new jutsu that permanently left you paralyzed despite only touching your shadow for a few seconds? Then, to answer her question, Shikamaru disappeared in a puff of smoke. Shadow Neck Binding Jutsu. A shadowy arm crept through Temari's body as it reached her throat, and put a slight pressure on it. And unless you think otherwise, I believe the fight goes to me, Shikamaru's voice said from behind. Temari sighed. Okay, I admit defeat. Shikamaru smirked in victory and undid the jutsu. She then walked towards Temari, hoping she wouldn't be too mad for the loss. So, was the fight to your liking? Shikamaru asked. Then, in a split second, Temari pushed Shikamaru backwards as she tripped his feet, making him fall on his back. Temari then sat on top of his chest, and pinned his arms to the ground. Ugh! Shikamaru groaned, as she looked at Temari, staring into his eyes. If I won, how is that I'm in the ground and you're on top? Temari smirked at him. Because that's the way it should be. Temari then closed her eyes, lowered her head, and planted a kiss on Shikamaru's lips. A kiss the lazy Nara happily welcomed. See? Just like I said, having fun with her boyfriend and leaving all the work to us, a new male voice complained. Temari quickly broke the kiss, and realized that her brothers, Naruto and Hinata, were staring at them. Gaara looked as stoic and unexpressive as usual, Kankuro was looking at them unamused, Naruto was grinning widely, while Hinata was smiling at them. Temari blushed a little, quickly got on her feet, and helped Shikamaru on his. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in the Hokage's tower? Temari awkwardly asked. We were. The meeting is over, and the treaty is signed. Time to go back home. Unless you want to spend more time here sucking face with Pineapple Head, Kankuro retorted. Why does everybody calls me that? Shikamaru complained to no one in particular. Then he turned to Temari, and smiled sadly at her. So, you're leaving then? Temari nodded, returning the sad smile. Yeah. I was expecting that things would last longer. But oh well, I'll be back for the Chunin exams. Well, I can still walk you to the gates then, Shikamaru offered. You better, Temari replied, as she and Shikamaru started walking with the others. By the way, when did you learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu? It requires a lot of chakra, and you don't look like having a big chakra pool to me. My mom taught it to me, Shikamaru replied. After failing the first Chunin exam, she pretty much ran me into the ground with training exercises until I had enough chakra to create a single clone. Then again, she wanted me to expand my chakra reserves. Learning the Shadow Clone was just an added bonus. Though I have to admit it's very useful. No wonder Naruto spams it non-stop, Shikamaru mentioned, making Naruto chuckle a little. Your mom sounds like my kind of woman, Temari said, interested. Speaking of which, how is that you never introduced me to your parents yet? I don't think our relationship is in the appropriate stage for such thing to happen, Shikamaru uneasily replied, as he rubbed the back of his neck. Temari frowned. I'll be the one to decide that. Plus you met my father already. Yeesh, and I'm trying to forget that day as hard as I can, Shikamaru replied. Why? It was hilarious. Kankuro interjected, followed by a loud laugh. I can't wait until Temari brings you to have dinner with all of us. Shikamaru let out a weary sigh, and realized that Kankuro's words would be true sooner or later. Why couldn't he just have dated an orphan? A few minutes later, the group of 6 were heading towards the gates of Konoha, making some small talk among them, when suddenly, a brown blur passed in front of them at an almost imperceptible speed, causing the 3 Suna ninja to startle and get ready for a fight. Naruto, Hinata and Shikamaru though, didn't, since they were used to it. Boy, she did last a lot longer this time around, Naruto chuckled. Yes. Wonder who will be the unlucky ones tasked to catch her this time, Hinata giggled. What are you guys talking about? Temari asked, raising an eyebrow. Somebody stop that cat. A high-pitched female voice yelled, answering both Hinata and Temari's questions. The group of 6 saw Kaida, Hagane and Hanabi running from the same direction the blur had came from. The 3 of them were wearing Konoha headbands, indicating their status as ninja. Hey there, guys, Naruto greeted the trio. So, you got the Tora mission? Hagane nodded. Unfortunately, yes. This is the second time in a month that we got it. Honestly, this isn't what I was expecting when I graduated the academy. I'm the closest thing Konoha has to a princess. I can't spend all my time chasing cats. Kaida whined. Do you guys need some help? Hinata offered. Kaida's face beamed in response. That would be. No, thank you, Hanabi interrupted her. We are now full-fledged ninja, we can't let others do our work for us. Hinata smiled at her sister. That's a very mature way of thinking, Hanabi-chan. I'm proud of that. Hanabi smiled back at her older sister. Kaida, however, shot her a murderous glare. So, where did that damn cat go? Hagane asked. I'll tell you right now. Byakugan, Hanabi said as she activated her bloodline limit. There. It's hidden behind a trash can in that alley. Good, that alley is a dead end, Kaida said as she rushed towards the alley. That damn cat is about to feel the power of the first Hokage. Sister, wait, Hagane said as he and Hanabi trailed behind her. You have nowhere to run down, Tora. Nobody's going to save you. The heard Kaida's voice yell. Would release, great for Meow. Stop. Stop it, you damn pest. Not in the face, not in the face. Brother, Hanabi, save me. Eventually, between the 3 of them, they managed to subdue Tora. The cat was now trying to break from a wooden cage made by Kaida, as Hagane used medical ninjutsu to heal his sister's many scratch wounds. The team's Jonin sensei, Tenzo, appeared shortly after in case they needed help. I hate that cat so much. Kaida seethed. Good job catching Tora, kids, Tenzo congratulated them. Madam Shijimi will be happy to have her beloved pet back. Why can't we just kill it and tell her she went to live to a farm? Kaida protested. I'm tired of having to catch that cat. Sadly, we can't. Tora represents a 15% of the village's mission income. It would be a huge blow to our economy, Tenzo explained to her. Now let's go back to report that the mission has been a success. As Team Tenzo left, Naruto, Hinata, Shikamaru and the Sand siblings continued their way to the village's gates. I see you guys also have your own Emi, Kankuro noted. Emi? Shikamaru asked, looking a bit confused. The Wind Lord's pet dwarf pig. It constantly tries to escape, and many Shinon team are assigned to catch it. From what I heard, it's quite the nightmarish beast despite its small size, Temari explained. Thank goodness we never had to catch him. How so? Hinata asked. Being the Kazekage's kids has some perks, you know, Kankuro said with a wide grin. Well, I'm the Hokage's son and that never got me out of doing an awful mission, Naruto bitterly said. Come on, don't complain. None of us got to catch Tora when we were Shinon, Shikamaru told him. Thankfully so, I admit. Because we had Tamaki-san to summon her. But even Tamaki-san got tired of doing that all the time, Hinata interjected. Not to mention that now that she's Chunin, there's no way for her to take that mission again. Finally, they reached the gates, and the group stopped. Our stay in Konoha has been pleasant, but now we must leave, Gaara announced. We'll come back for the Chunin exams in a couple months, though. I'll be looking forward to it, then. Naruto happily said. Yeah, me too. Of all the women I ever met, you're the least annoying, Shikamaru told Temari. Temari shot an unamused look at her boyfriend. You know, we'll need to work on your compliments a bit more. Come on, you know I'm just kidding, Shikamaru said with an earnest smile. I'll be looking forward seeing you again. You can always visit me in Suna, you know, Temari suggested, placing her hands on her hips. I could but, crossing a desert sounds beyond troublesome. Shikamaru whined. What? You wouldn't cross a desert to see me? Some boyfriend you are. Temari protested, before Kankuro grabbed her arm and dragged her out of Konoha. Enough of love quarrels, we need to go, now. Kankuro told his sister. Don't think I'm ever going to forget this, pineapple head, Temari said as she and her brothers headed back to Suna. Shikamaru sighed. Oh boy, I better prepare a good way to make up to her for that when she comes back. Man, sometimes I almost feel that girls are not worth the effort. Almost. Well, you weren't exactly very sensitive there, Shikamaru-san, Hinata told him. Shikamaru shrugged. Hey, it's who I am. As the three Suna ninja disappeared behind a sea of trees, the three Konoha ninja headed back to their village. And unbeknownst to both groups, a white Zetsu emerged from the ground, and smirked. Yes, the jinchuriki finally left Konoha, and has minimal protection. Time to warn the artists. The Zetsu said as he sank back into the ground. Sometime later, deep in the forests of the Land of Fire, the Sand siblings continued their trek back home, leaping from one tree branch to the next as fast as they could. If we can keep this pace, we'll be home in less than 2 days, Gaara told his older siblings. Father will be pleased when he hears the news of our early arrival. I don't know why we have to bring the treaty ourselves. Couldn't a courier bird do the trick? Kankuro said, unhappy with the idea of being a courier himself. This treaty is far too important to trust an animal to carry it back home, Kankuro, Temari pointed out. The fact that it has been trust to us of all Suna ninjas should speak volumes of its importance. Kankuro just rolled his eyes. Whatever. I just want to go back to do real missions as soon as possible. I've been carving for some action recently. Shortly after those words left Kankuro's lips, a set of explosions rocked the forest, engulfing the Sand siblings in fire and shrapnel. Several birds that were calmly perched on nearby tree branches flew away, letting out cause of fear. A couple trees toppled down after the explosions shattered their trunks, and fell to the ground with a loud thump. When the smoke and dust raised by the explosions, there were several craters in the ground, surrounding a large sand dome. The dome then dissolved into sand, which returned to Gaara's gourd on his back. Are you okay? Gaara asked, as he looked around for whoever attacked them. Yes, Temari grumbled, before he glared at his hooded brother. Way to go, Kankuro. Hope you're happy with all this action. Hey, how did I know something like this would happen? Kankuro protested as he raised his arms in defense. Silence, Gaara said, softly but firmly. We need to stay alert. Whoever attacked us is still there, and will strike again soon. There's no time for meaningless quarrels. Temari and Kankuro nodded somewhat sheepishly, and prepared for the incoming fight. Temari unfolded her giant war fan, while Kankuro unfurled 3 scrolls before him. From the scrolls, 3 puppets were unsealed, Karasu, his very first puppet, and the one he had used in the tuning exams to very little success. The second one was similar to the first, only with a bulkier, barrel-shaped body, a bucket-shaped face, and 6 arms instead of 4. The third one, however, resembled a large mechanical lizard. A minute passed, but the attack never came. Gaara managed to remain calm, but his older siblings were starting to grow antsy. That's it, until they saw a shadow quickly passing over them. Kankuro, up there. Temari pointed somewhere in the sky. Kankuro wasted no time and directed Karasu towards the spot the enemy has been seen, and directed it to attack. Raising its 4 arms, the puppet fired a barrage of senbon and kunai while moving its arms in an arc to cover a wider range. The shadow appeared again, moving between the branches. This time, it wouldn't escape as Gaara prepared to attack. Wind release, sand shuriken. Several sand projectiles fired towards the shadow, and a loud ouch could be heard. Then emerging from the treetops, a large, artificial-looking white bird appeared, with a blond young man wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it riding on top of it. Akatsuki. I knew it, Gaara said as he eyed his attacker. Damn it, so much for stealth, the Akatsuki grumbled. Wait a minute, I think I know this guy, Temari mentioned. Konoha told us that 2 Akatsuki appeared in Kiri to abduct the Mizukage, and one of them fits your description. Are you Deidara, the missing nin of Iwa? You bet I am. Deidara proudly confirmed. And today, you 3 will have the luck to die by my magnificent art. Gaara, he's coming after you. Stay behind us, Temari said, as she took a step forward, ready to face the Iwa missing nin. Actually, I don't believe he's alone. Akatsuki usually attack in pairs. His teammate must be close, Gaara warned his siblings. Here it comes. Kankuro warned. Deidara started to fly above them, close enough so they could be seen, but far enough so their attacks couldn't reach him. Reaching into his bag, the Akatsuki pulled out some explosive clay, and molded it with the mouths he had on the palm of her hands. After chewing the clay a bit, they spat it in the form of ugly-looking birds. Let's start with something soft, Deidara said as he dropped his bombs as he flew above the trio of Suna ninjas. He then made a hand seal. Boom! The clay birds exploded just before they were about to touch the ground. Kankuro and Temari jumped away in different directions to avoid the explosions, while Gaara shielded himself once again with his sand. Scatter. If we're together, his explosions won't be able to reach us. Kankuro suggested. No. That's what the Akatsuki wants. To drive us away from Gaara and leave him unprotected. Temari argued back. Gaara had to admit that both his siblings had a point. Remaining together would make them too vulnerable to Deidara explosive attacks, but it was very clear that the Akatsuki were playing a divide-and-conquer strategy. Both of you are right. However, we can't play into the Akatsuki's hands. We need to be smarter than them, Gaara told them. What do you suggest, then? Kankuro asked. Let's remain split apart, though close enough to provide help. The Akatsuki want me, so they'll focus their attacks on me. Of the 3 of us, I'm the one with the best defenses, so I'll be able to handle them better. Attack the Akatsuki when they're vulnerable, Gaara told them. Both Kankuro and Temari admitted that it was a sound strategy, even if a little risky. But then again, they weren't in an advantageous position, so they'll have to work with what they had. The 3 Suna ninjas placed themselves in a triangular formation, with Gaara in the middle, as if tempting the Akatsuki to go and get them. You think you're so smart, do you? Deidara said with a snarl. But your little plan has a hole on it. The Sand siblings were alerted but multiple piercing whistles, as a multitude of equally piercing senbon flew towards them. Temari and Kankuro sprang into action. Placing herself in front of Gaara, she fully unfolded her fan and hid behind it as if it was a shield. Kankuro, meanwhile, used his own puppets to parry the needles. You should look where you're stepping into, girl, Deidara shouted from above. What the? Temari asked as she reflexively looked down, and much to her horror, she saw some of Deidara clay animals emerging from underground. Oh shit. Deidara made a hand seal. Boom. Once again, more explosions rocked the battlefield. Gaara was able to shield himself with the sand, but he wasn't fast enough to protect his siblings, which were painfully hurled into the air, before falling back into the ground, away from Gaara. Well, now that I got rid of those two, we can focus on the matter at hand, Deidara said with a wicked grin. Gaara fixed a deadly glare on Deidara, as more sand started to pour from his gourd. You will pay for that. Far from being intimidated, Deidara grinned in response. And how do you plan to do that, jinchuriki? Sand suspension. With a hand motion, he gathered all his sand under his feet in the form of a platform, and with another gesture, the platform elevated him high into the air, above the trees below, almost as high as Deidara bird was. I don't think I've ever had to fight against an airborne opponent. Anyway, this going to be fun, Deidara said with a glee as he threw something forward. Gaara could see there were tiny birds made of clay that flew towards him. More explosives. Better get rid of them as soon as possible, Gaara deduced before making another hand gesture. Sand bullets. Gaara formed bullets of super compressed sand and shot them towards the incoming explosive birds. The clay figurines detonated once the bullets impacted them, but being that far away from Gaara, the explosions were harmless. Before the ensuing clouds of smoke could dispel, a few insects made of clay flew out of them, and dashed towards Gaara. The jinchuriki was unfazed, as with another hand motion, he prepared his defense. Wind release, infinite sandstorm. Gaara blew a massive sandstorm forward. Deidara commanded his clay insects to dodge it, but the sand jutsu's range was way too wide, and the insects were caught, prematurely exploding once again. Okay, I think I have a good assessment on what this dude can do. Catching him off guard won't be easy, but there's no challenge my art can't overcome. Deidara confidently thought. I can't let him push me into the defensive. If I want to win this, I have to attack, Gaara thought, and with a hand motion, he commanded the sand platform to fly closer to Deidara. The blonde Akatsuki noticed this and flew away, trying to keep the distance, since he wouldn't be able to use his explosives on such a short distance. Well, technically he could, but his self-preservation instincts told him otherwise. As Gaara began his chase, he saw Kankuro and Temari in the ground from the corner on his eye. They were back on his feet and looked ready to fight, filling the redhead with relief. Oi, you don't have time to look around. Deidara called him out, as if reading his mind. Don't worry about your friends. My pal's down there with them, and he will make sure that they enjoy a slow and agonizing death. Then again, that might be a reason to worry, don't you think so? Deidara asked, shooting him an unnerving grin. Kankuro and Temari are far stronger than you think. Your partner is going to be for a rough time, Gaara fired back. I won't worry about him, just like you shouldn't worry about those two other kids. All you should worry is my art, Deidara said as he threw more explosive clay figurines at Gaara. Meanwhile, down below, Kankuro and Temari were back on their feet. They were looking at the sky-high battle above them, which filled them with a sense of uselessness upon realizing that there was nothing they could do to help their little brother. That guy's smart. They sent a fly-capable Akatsuki to deal with Gaara, knowing that Gaara can fly as well and thus forcing him to fight alone, Temari said, as she intently watched the fight. When this is over, I'm going to build a flying puppet, Kankuro said. Forget about the future. We need to find a way to help Gaara now, Temari stated, stomping his foot for an added emphasis. I know, but what can we do, Temari? We have no jutsu that can reach that high. Kankuro protested. Don't worry about not being able to help your brother, kids. I'll keep you busy in the meantime. After all, I know how tedious can be when somebody makes you wait, a new, deep and raspy voice said. Temari and Kankuro quickly turned around, ready to fight however was there, and as expected, another Akatsuki was standing before them. Well, standing might not be the right word. In front of them was what appeared to be an extremely hunched man, almost looking like he was walking on all fours, wearing the standard black cloak with red clouds of the Akatsuki. The lower part of his face was covered by a piece of black cloth, obscuring his identity. Here's the other one, Temari said to no one in particular. What's with that guy? Is he even human? Kankuro asked, taking note of the being's strange appearance. The Akatsuki seemed to find Kankuro's question amusing, and let out a small laugh. Human? No. At least not anymore. Funny you ask that. You are right, though not for the reasons you're thinking, the Akatsuki chuckled. Well, human or not, you're about to become a corpse, Temari said as she took a step forward, and wounded her fan back. Great sickle weasel jutsu. However, before the ensuing gust of wind could blast the Akatsuki, it disappeared, shocking both siblings. He's fast, Temari said in awe. Of course he is. If he was a weakling, I doubt he'll be part of Akatsuki, Kankuro said, as he motioned his puppets to place themselves in a formation surrounding both he and Temari. Get ready for his attack. Your name is Kankuro, right? Or so I heard, the other Akatsuki asked. I see you're a puppeteer. It's been a while since I met one. Do you mind if I test your abilities for a bit? Since I have nothing better to do until Deidara finishes the job. Show yourself, you coward, Kankuro shouted back. The Akatsuki chuckled. I'll take that as a yes. Multiple whistling sounds warned the two San siblings of another attack, several senbon coming flying from a nearby group of bushes. Temari turned around, and swung her war fan once again. Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. A wall of wind stopped the barrage of senbon dead in their tracks, while clearing the area of small vegetation, leaving the weird-looking Akatsuki in the open, though unaffected by Temari's wind attack. Meanwhile, Kankuro moved Karasu and Kurori to attack their now uncovered enemy, and positioned them to make sure the Akatsuki wouldn't escape nor have space to evade them. Take this, Kankuro yelled. Karasu and Kurori started to spin around the Akatsuki at high speed. Then, with a tiny flick of his finger, Kankuro triggered their hidden weapon mechanisms. Karasu fired several poison-coated kunai, while Kurori fired several senbon, also poisoned as well. The Akatsuki didn't move. He didn't need to, as a segmented, metallic tail ended in a triangular tip appeared from under him, and parried all the attacks at a breaknecking speed. What the? Kankuro asked in shock. It didn't finish there. The metal tail slammed into Kurori, dismantling it to pieces, before it wrapped around Karasu, and lifted it above his body. Is this the best you can do, puppeteer? The Akatsuki asked in his guttural voice. Not only I'm not impressed. I'm disappointed even, he finished, before tossing Karasu against Kankuro and Temari. Both of them jumped aside to avoid the incoming puppet, but soon they would find that was a mere distraction. The metal tail flew at Temari, ready to impale her. The kunoichi reacted in time, folded her war fan, and used it to parry the blow. Still, she was unprepared for the amount of force the metallic tail was carrying, and she was hurled backwards. Ugh! Temari groaned as her back hit a nearby tree. Temari! Kankuro instinctively yelled, but forced himself to ignore his sister's predicament. No. I have to take advantage now and attack while he's focused on Temari. Kankuro reassembled both Kurori and Karasu, and sent them again after the Akatsuki. It proved to be fruitless, as the black and red-clad thing repelled the attack with another swing of his powerful tail. You bore me, the Akatsuki flatly said, before digging underground. For such a strange being, he doesn't lack in mobility, Kankuro said to no one in particular, as he gathered his puppets around him, waiting for the inevitable attack. It didn't take long before the iron tail burst from underground and lunged at Kankuro. The Suna Jonin quickly moved Sanshao between him and the impeding attack. The lizard-shaped puppet deployed an iron shield above its head, which successfully parried the attack. You won't be able to pierce Sanshao's iron-hard defense. Kankuro boasted. Now, let's get you back into the open. With another hand motion, Karasu fired a barrage of kunai with explosive notes attached to them at the area where the tail came from, creating multiple explosions. Predictably, the Akatsuki was forced out in the open. The strange-shaped being chuckled. Hey, maybe you have. Wind release. Wind pillar. A powerful gust of wind hurled the Akatsuki into the air, much to his surprise. Don't dare forget about me. Temari called. Good job, sister. Karasu and Kurori will finish this now, Kankuro said, as he moved Kurori where the Akatsuki would fall. The puppet then opened its barrel-like stomach, revealing a large empty space inside. The Akatsuki fell inside, and in a heartbeat, the compartment was closed. Meanwhile, Karasu disassembled into many body parts, all of them ended in sharp blades, which floated around Kurori. Time to finish this, Kanuro said, making a hand motion. Meanwhile, back above the trees, Deidara and Gaara continued their aerial duel, exchanging explosions and sand-based attacks. You're a tough nut to crack, I admit that, Deidara said. Say, let's make a deal, you come with us in peace, and you dear siblings will be spared. What do you say, HN? You suppose my siblings will fall to that partner of yours? They're strong ninja, and those who underestimate them will pay for it dearly, Gaara stoically replied. Deidara couldn't repress a smirk. I knew you'll turn down that deal, that's why I offered it in the first place. It won't be no fun if you gave up like that. Then again, I'm afraid it's you who's underestimating Sasori. The name seemed to resonate with the red-headed jinchuriki. Sasori? As in, Sasori of the Red Sands? Deidara chuckled. Do you know any other Sasori? Besides, that guy's from the same turf as you are, HN? Gaara never met Sasori, but he heard about him multiple times. Sasori of the Red Sands was probably Suna's greatest puppeteer, as well as one of deadliest ninja the village ever produced. Almost nothing was known about him after his defection. But if what Deidara said was true, then his siblings were in grave danger. I have to help them. On instinct, Gaara turned around and headed down once again, but Deidara got in the way. Where are you going, kid? Don't forget that I'm your opponent, Deidara shouted, sounding almost indignant. Gaara's face formed a dangerous scowl. Then I'll take you out of the picture. Deidara grinned widely. That's the spirit. You're the kind of opponent I love to unleash my best art against. Gaara prepared to resume the fight. It was one thing when it was just his life was on the stakes. But if he wanted to save his siblings, he'll have to fight like he never did before. He made a hand seal. Wind release, multiple sand dragon bullets. The sand floating around Gaara took the shape of multiple serpentine dragons, who all launched themselves at Deidara, their jaws wide open ready to chomp the Akatsuki to bits. Deidara cursed under his breath, and maneuvered his giant clay bird to evade the incoming attack. He tried to make the dragons to crash against each other, however, they would easily rebuild themselves in no time, and continue the chase. Okay, let's see what he thinks of this then, Deidara mused as he molded more explosive clay with the mouth on his palms. He produced what appeared to be an insect with a bloated body. He tossed it forward, and after a smoke explosion, it grew to the same size of its bird. At its bigger size, Gaara could appreciate it was a crudely made bee that carried a large egg sac on its abdomen. Let's see what you do about the explosive clay hive queen, HN. Deidara boasted, as the giant clay insect flew forward. The hive queen opened its jaws and spat two clay balls that quickly took the form of clay insects that flew towards him. The redhead stopped directing the sand dragons, and sent a barrage of sand projectiles towards the clay insects, causing them to prematurely detonate. The hive queen pressed the attack, this time spitting 4 explosive insects. When Gaara tried the same tactic, the insects skillfully maneuvered around the sand projectiles. Gaara put an end to them with a wide-ranged sandstorm. Gaara's sand reacted on his own and formed a protective dome above him. Several explosions shattered the dome, but absorbed most of the impact, protecting the jinchuriki. Taking a quick glance upwards, Gaara saw Deidara flying above him in circles. Gaara realized that Deidara's plan was to force him to divert his attention to something else so he could attack when the jinchuriki was distracted, yet this knowledge wasn't of much help. Come on, Gaara, think. Gaara chided himself as he tried to focus on both Deidara and the explosive hive queen. Speaking of which, the latter released 4 more clay insects at him. Gaara decided to fight fire with fire, and tried something he had never done before. He formed 4 globs of sand, shaped them like bats, and sent them after the explosive insects. Sand flying ambush. Each of the bats focused on the targets, which tried to evade them, but unlike previous attacks, this one was homing, and even if the bats didn't catch the insects, they would keep them on the run pretty much forever. Now is when the Akatsuki would try to attack me, Gaara thought as he looked upwards, but saw nobody above him. Where did he? Suddenly, an explosion from below knocked him out of the sand cloud, and fell to the ground below. Fortunately, his sand reacted in time, and formed a sledge that allowed him to slide to the ground safely. The bastard attacked from below this time around, Gaara said in realization, far too late. Oi! No time to get distracted. Deidara mocked from above. Not forgetting about the other enemy, Gaara turned around to see the explosive hive queen flying towards him once again. It spat 4 more globs of clay that turned into clay insects. If I have to fight 2 enemies at once, I might as well split in 2, Gaara said as he made a hand seal. Sand clone jutsu. Part of his sand gathered and formed a humanoid shape, that quickly morphed into an almost perfect replica of Gaara. Both Gaara and the clone summoned sand clouds once again, and hopped onto them in order to return to the aerial fight. So, a clone. You must think you're pretty smart, Deidara said in a taunting tone. Too bad that by doing so, you cut the amount of sand you can use in half. That's all what I need to defeat you, Akatsuki. And if it's not, I can assure you that getting more sand is not a problem to begin with, Gaara retorted as he made a hand motion. Wind release, sand shuriken. A large barrage of star-shaped sand projectiles flew at Deidara. The Akatsuki maneuvered his bird with great skill to avoid the deadly projectiles, but the amount of them were too many this time, and some of them ended up finding its mark, producing multiple cuts across his skin, some of them rather deep. ARGH. So, you like to play rough, HN? Well, so do I, Deidara said as he made a hand seal. Explosion release, swarm of fire. The explosive hive queen, who was dealing with the sand clone, start to spat globs of clay like crazy until it emptied its egg sac. The globs quickly took the shape of flying insects. With a loud buzz that sounded more like a roar due to the sheer intensity, the insects charged forward. Their first target was the Gaara clone, who, being much weaker than the original, perished instantly upon being engulfed by a chain of explosions, obliterating it. The remaining of the swarm set their sights on Gaara, and began the chase. Gaara frowned upon seeing the swarm approaching. He made a single hand seal with both hands. Wind release, infinite sandstorm. Gaara gathered all the sand he could, and directed it at the incoming swarm in the form of a devastating sandstorm. The winds were so powerful it successfully halted their advance, some of the clay insects. Unfortunately, that left him wide open for Deidara to attack, and the Akatsuki sent 2 explosive clay birds at him. Seeing that if he remained in the air, the insects would have more ways to attack him, Gaara descended upon the ground, and formed several layers of sand domes around him in order to protect himself against the incoming swarm. Let's hope this will be enough, Gaara inwardly pleaded. He was soon about to find out, as multiple explosions rained upon him in his makeshift bunker. Back to Temari and Kankuro, the hooded Suna ninja was about finished Sasori off. Black secret move, Iron Maiden. The improvised swords that were Karasu's limbs inserted into the slits around Kurori's torso, impaling the Akatsuki inside. And done, Kankuro said, with a triumphant smirk. Temari, however, wasn't so optimistic. No blood spilled. I have a bad feeling about this. Open up. I want to make sure the bastard's dead, Temari asked as she got her giant fan ready. Kankuro nodded, and with a pull of his finger, he opened Kurori's stomach. And much to his shock and anger, there was a log in the Akatsuki's place, impaled by the improvised blades. The hell? Where did he go? Kankuro indignantly asked. God damn it, Kankuro, he fooled us. Get your puppets back to normal before we're attacked, Temari urged him. Too late for that, the Akatsuki's raspy voice said, as his metallic tail burst from behind a nearby bush, and stabbed into Kankuro's stomach. Kankuro! Temari screamed. Kankuro grunted in pain, before he wrapped one of his arms around the metallic tail. Then, he created several chakra threads with the other, and tied those threads to nearby branches. When the Akatsuki tried to pull his tail back, he found unable to. I got him, Temari. Go for the kill, Kankuro cried, as he spat some blood. Temari nodded and rushed towards the Akatsuki. She folded her fan, and hoisted it over her head. Once the Akatsuki appeared before her, she got ready to attack. The Akatsuki, however, opened his mouth, and fired a barrage of senbone that sank into Temari's flesh. The kunoichi ignored the sharp pain and smashed her fan against the Akatsuki's head with all her might. The effect was instant. Temari had put so much strength into her swipe, that the Akatsuki shattered instantly as if he was made of wood, metal and plastic. And, upon closer inspection, that was the case, much to the Suna kunoichi's bewilderment. A hooded man wearing the Akatsuki cloak came out of the shattered construct. Pulling his hood back, he revealed to be a very young man with soft facial features and short red hair, not unlike Gaara's. Congratulations, you destroyed Hiruko, the Akatsuki said, his voice no longer sounding deep and raspy, but soft and youthful. Too bad you did it at the cost of your lives. Wait a minute, that thing, it was a puppet, Kankuro said in realization, before he winced and brought one hand to his wounded gut. Yes, it was. Not that it would have been of much help had you realized of that earlier, the Akatsuki replied in a bored tone. The weapons I hurt you with are coated in a lethal, slow-acting poison. You might not notice it now, but trust me, you're already dead. Who the hell are you? An enraged Kankuro asked. The redhead smirked. I am what you strive to be. I am the strongest ninja Suna ever produced, as well as its most skilled puppeteer. The hilariously outdated puppets you tried to use against me were some of my earliest creations. Though, to your credit, I'll admit that you handled them with mastery. My name is Sasori of the Red Sands. You might have heard of me. Kankuro paled. If this man was who he said it was, then no wonder he defeated them so easily. But there was something that didn't make sense. Sasori disappeared from Suna 20 years ago, back during the Third Ninja War, when he was just 15. Yet the young man in front of him couldn't be older than 18. You lie. Kankuro called him out. If you were really Sasori. At that moment, a long chain of explosions happened nearby, raising powerful winds and several clouds of smoke and dirt. And it seems that my partner is done. Just in time. Good, since I hate waiting, the redhead said with a smirk. I think I overdid it. Deidara wondered, as his bird began to fly in circles around the clouds of dirt and smoke product of the explosions. He then smiled and added, "Nah. It was epic. One of my best jobs." As the dust started to clear, among a field of craters, Deidara could see his prey, the red-headed jinchuriki, lying on the ground, motionless. His clothes were torn apart, and his body was covered in burns and bruises. A bad feeling started to creep through the Iwa missing nin's back, and grimaced in result. "Boy, I may have overdone it there," Deidara mumbled as he got off his bird, and started to walk towards Gaara. "If I killed the jinchuriki, then no, better check before jumping to conclusions." "Oi, are you alive, HN?" Deidara asked as he kicked Gaara's body. Then, Gaara dissolved into a mound of sand, much to Deidara's shock. "Another clone," Deidara said in realization, as he looked around trying to find the real deal. But it was too late. Sand started to burst from underground with the same power as a geyser. The sand then started to form thick tendrils which took no time to wrap themselves around the Akatsuki, leaving him immobilized. "What the hell is this?" Deidara screamed as he futilely tried to break free. "A decoy. They're widely used by ninja around the world," Gaara's voice said from behind as he walked towards the trapped Deidara. "Don't bother, you won't be able to break free of that sand prison. Now, we're going to head towards your partner, and you'll tell him to leave, or else I'll turn your bones and organs into pudding. And you'll kill me afterwards. You think I'm an idiot?" Deidara retorted. "You won't die. At least, not yet. A live Akatsuki member is too valuable. That's why I'll bring you back to my village, where our torture and interrogation department will make you spill everything you know about Akatsuki. If you cooperate, you might live." "So, you want to know Akatsuki's secrets, he, Deidara laughed mischievously, before shooting Gaara a taunting look. "I think I might share one of those secrets right now with you. I'm all ears." "And that would be?" "That's not the real me, but a clone," Deidara's voice said from behind. Gaara instinctively turned around and saw the real Deidara standing there. Startled, Gaara prepared to attack the real one before he could, and that proved to be a fatal mistake. The clone behind him gathered its chakra and released it in the form of yet another explosion that engulfed Gaara. The sand trapping the clone tried to move towards Gaara in order to protect him, but it was too late. After the explosion ceased, Gaara laid there, motionless, just like his clone had been just a few minutes ago. "I think you're not a clone this time, are you?" Deidara mockingly asked. He then pulled out what appeared to be a compass. The needle in the compass moved a little at a constant pace. "And you're not dead. All right, our job here is done." Deidara jumped onto his giant clay bird, who proceeded to catch Gaara with its talons, before it flew to the concurrent battleground. There, he saw Sasori, no longer inside his puppet, with the other two Tsuna ninja at his feet. "Oi, Sasori, I already beat him. Shall we move or what, HN?" Deidara asked. "Gaara," Temari whispered, disheartened upon seeing her defeated brother being held by that clay bird. "You did? Nice," Sasori said, before turning to the fallen Tsuna nin. "The poison inside your bodies will kill you in 3 days. You will experience the most excruciating pain any human being has ever felt. By the end of the 2nd day, you'll try to kill yourselves. The merciful thing would be to kill you right here and right now," Sasori concluded, shooting them a painfully fake sympathetic smile. "But you destroyed Hiruko, one of my dearest puppets. It's beyond repair, which means I'll have to rebuild it from scratch. And thus, I don't feel especially merciful. So enjoy your last 3 days of your existence, if you can, that is." Sasori then turned around, and jumped onto Deidara bird. The artificial creature flapped its wings vigorously to gain altitude, and started to fly towards the west. Once the Akatsuki were no longer visible, Temari gathered what little strength she had, and using her folded war fan as support, she got back on her feet. "Kankuro, get up. We're going to make those bastards regret leaving us alive," Temari said, as she started to cough. "You aren't thinking going after them?" Kankuro weakly asked. "Of course not. We need to look for help, for both Gaara and ourselves," Temari replied. "We're too far away from Tsuna. But we're still close to Konoha," Temari energetically said, as she helped his little brother back on his feet. "Come on, Kankuro. Tsunade-sama can heal us, and then Konoha will help us too, to save Gaara." And with the knowledge that not only their lives, but their little brother's life was at stake, the two fallen Tsuna ninja proceeded to move towards Konoha, as fast as their weakened bodies allowed them to. Chapter 52. Gaara's Rescue Party. Or Snakes in the Grass. Did I ever tell you how much I hate gate duty? Kiba asked his teammates. Many times. And doing so doesn't make our job here any less tedious, Shino fired back. You know, I heard that if you get promoted to Special Jonin, you no longer have to do these kind of chores, Tamaki replied. Problem is, I have no idea what could I do to get that promotion. I plan on specializing as a tracker, just like my mom did, Kiba replied. Tracking missions are always fun. Tamaki noticed that a faint light was starting to appear in the horizon, and little by little, the forest around Konoha started to become clearer. The sun is rising, the cat Kunoichi said as she stifled a yawn. That means the day shift will soon come, and we can go home and sleep a little. Akamaru then started to sniff the air. He walked closer to the wall's edge and started to loudly bark at something below. What is it, buddy, did you find something? Kiba said, and soon he also got wind of a foreign smell coming closer. Tamaki narrowed her eyes, and saw two figures slowly approaching the gates. Hey, down there. Two people are coming. Can you see who they are? Shino asked. Their smell, I think they're Suna Ninja. And not just Suna Ninja, but I think they're Gaara's older siblings. Kiba pointed out. Are you sure about that? Shino asked, as he tried to get a better view of the incoming strangers. Then, the two figures dropped to the ground, and laid there, motionless. Oh shit, Tamaki said. Kiba, go warn somebody about the situation at hand. I'll go down and see if I can heal them. Tamaki, guard my back in case it's a trap, Shino quickly commanded. Right. You got it. Kiba and Akamaru quickly dashed towards the Hokage's tower, while Shino and Tamaki jumped from the wall, landing on the ground with a thud, as they cautiously approached the two fallen Suna Ninja. Land of the Rivers. A couple hours after Kankuro and Temari had arrived to Konoha, so did Deidara and Sasori to the designated Akatsuki lair in the Land of the Rivers. While they could have arrived there much earlier, they decided to stop for the night and rest, since neither of them came out unscathed from their clash with the Sand siblings. They reached the main door, a massive boulder with a seal attached to it. Deidara made a hand seal, and the boulder elevated above the ground, revealing a cave entrance. The two Akatsuki, with their captured jinchuriki hoisted on Deidara's shoulder, entered the cave, and the boulder slammed down as soon as they were inside. Deidara walked forward and tossed Gaara's unconscious body in front of him. So, I see that you were successful in your endeavor, Deidara, Sasori, a deep, distorted voice said above them. Both Akatsuki looked upwards and saw 8 astral projections, each of them belonging to the other Akatsuki members. Of course. When did I fail, Akatsuki? Deidara asked, indignantly. That's 2 for 2, need I remind you? You shouldn't count Yagura, given that all you had to do was to activate the trigger phrase I implanted inside his mind, Obito dismissively said. Deidara angrily glared at the Uchiha. I'd like to see you getting into a war zone and take a jinchuriki out of it alive, HN. Then again, we shouldn't dismiss their accomplishments like that, should we? Orochimaru chuckled. After all, Sasori lost his beloved Hiruko in order to bring us this jinchuriki. This time, it was Sasori who frowned at Orochimaru. He hated how that man was able to give praise and diss insults in the same breath. Still, the best thing to do was not to dignify that gratuitous jab with a response. Enough of that. Time is of the essence. We need to extract the tailed beast from its host, the leader said as he made 5 hand seals. Summoning jutsu. A massive statue emerged from the ground. The statue had an extremely ugly visage, composed of a large, open mouth full of teeth and 9 eyes, 2 of whom were opened. Disconnected from the statue were 2 arms with their fingers pointing forward. Each Akatsuki placed themselves on one of the fingers. The extraction process will take 3 days, so make sure you're ready, the leader advised, before making another hand seal. Sealing art, Phantom Dragon 9 Consumption Seal. 9 ghostly dragons emerged from the statue's mouth and engulfed Gaara, lifting the young jinchuriki above the ground. A stream of red energy started to flow from Gaara's mouth into the statue. The extraction process had begun, and if it wasn't interrupted, Gaara would lose the one tail. But most importantly, he would also lose his life. Konoha Hospital. When Tsunade crossed the doors of the hospital like she did every other day, she expected to have a day like every other. Sure, medical emergencies happen every day, but nothing she or her qualified and in some cases, personally trained staff wouldn't be able to handle. What she didn't expect, though, was a medical emergency not even 5 minutes after she sat on her desk in her office. A nurse immediately requested her to come down, as two people of utmost importance were on the verge of death, and they needed her help as soon as possible. Tsunade's surprise was gigantic when she saw who the patients were. Temari and Kankuro? What are these two doing here? Tsunade asked as she helped the other medic nin to stabilize them. We don't know. The Chunin of Team Kakashi were about to finish their night shift at the gates when they saw them coming, a medic nin explained. We can ask them when they're awake. What's their status? Tsunade asked. Their wounds suggest that they've been in a battle recently. But that's not the reason of their current state, another medic nin said. We detected a powerful poison coursing through their bodies. If we don't eliminate the poison, they might not last long. Tsunade knew what she had to do. Quickly, fetch my apprentices. We'll need them if we want these two to live. She did not mention Shino. He was in her mind, being her apprentice and all, but after being all night awake, he would be way too sleepy to be of help. And for their task ahead, they needed to be as focused as possible. Training Ground 8. Kurenai's assault squad had gathered at their usual training spot, and were about to begin their morning training routine. Since all of them were either Jonin or Special Jonin, none of them were bound to the extra duties all Chunin had, such as guarding the gates, or patrolling the city. And thus, they usually spend the morning training until they were called for a mission. And unbeknownst to them, today would be one of those days. Okay, since we're all here, let us begin, Kurenai said. I have a good feeling that if we keep this training regime, in a few months you two will get that promotion to Jonin, Kurenai told Haku and Hinata. Today I suggested Kurenai-sensei that you should fight me in Sage mode. I won't go all out on you, but it will be good practice, Naruto said. You won't find many enemies that are stronger than a master of Senjutsu like yours truly, hee. Alright, Naruto-kun, I'm ready, Hinata confidently said. Me too. Besides, that way we can go all out without worrying about causing you irreparable harm, Haku added. In that case, get into position. I'll watch, and Kurenai was saying before she noticed an Anbu pretty much appearing between them. Huh? Haku immediately recognized the Anbu, not just for her cat-shaped mask, but also for her bright purple hair. Yugao-san? The Anbu nodded and removed her mask, revealing her face. Hinata Hyuga, Tsunade-sama requests your presence at the hospital. You need to assist her with two gravely injured patients of utmost importance. I will go immediately, Hinata nodded as she started running towards the hospital. Yugao, do you know who are those patients? Kurenai asked the purplet. Yes. Temari and Kankuro, from Sunagakur. We don't know what happened to them since they're unconscious, but we presume they've been attacked, Yugao explained. Naruto felt his heart sink. He had talked to them not even a day ago. Then, much to his horror, he noticed that Yugao didn't mention a certain somebody. What about Gaara? He left with Kankuro and Temari. Is he alright? Yugao just shook her head. We know nothing about him. What we know it's that Temari and Kankuro appeared before the gates of the village shortly after sunrise. It's possible that he managed to run away and return to Suna? No, that doesn't sound like Gaara. He would have never abandoned his siblings like that. I have a very bad feeling about this. I think I'm going to the hospital as well, Naruto said. Let's go all then, Kurenai suggested. Yugao merely nodded, put her mask back on, and body flickered out of there. Gaara, Temari and Kankuro left yesterday afternoon, and today the latter two show up, badly wounded, without the former, Haku mentioned. Do you think this is the work of Akatsuki? Naruto shot the ice ninja a grave look. That's what I'm afraid of. When Hinata arrived at the room where Kankuro and Temari were being treated, she was greeted by the sight of her master in the medical arts, as well as her fellow medic nin Ino. Tsunade was studying something under a microscope, while Ino helped other medics to stabilize the wounded San siblings. Tsunade-sama, Hinata is here. A nurse announced. Good. Hinata, go help Ino, now. She barked at the Hyuga. What about Shizun's medical squad? It seems they left yesterday for a mission. Nobody knows when they will be back, the nurse replied. Drats. I could have really used their help here, Tsunade cursed, as she went back to the microscope. Any progress on the poison, Tsunade-sama? Ino asked as she continuously healed Temari. I think I saw something similar in the past. It looks a lot like the poisons Chio of Suna used way back during the Second Ninja War, Tsunade told her. Except this one seems far more advanced. Fortunately, nobody has ever created a poison I can't neutralize, and this won't be an exception. Suddenly, Kankuro started to tremble violently as he screamed in pain. What's wrong with him? A panicked Ino said as she moved to heal him. Byakugan. Hinata's bloodline limit activated, and with it she was able to immediately see the problem. His liver. The poison is damaging it. Ino nodded and focused the mystical palm jutsu on that area. Soon, Kankuro relaxed and became more stable, even if he was still unconscious. Hinata then scanned what organs were the most damaged so she, Ino and the other medics could focus on healing those first. Good job you two. Work on keeping them stable while I finish the antidote, Tsunade told them. When Temari-san and Kankuro-san left, Gaara-san was with them. Do we know anything about him? Hinata asked. Like Naruto and Haku, she was afraid Akatsuki would be behind this. Ino shook her head. No. We don't know about him. At least not unless these two wake up first. Could you probe their minds? Hinata suggested. Guess I could. Though try to keep them stable. If another violent episode happens, the sympathetic damage could break my mind, Ino advised Hinata as she placed both her index fingers on Kankuro and Temari's forehead. The Yamanaka heiress only needed to see their latest memories before she found the answer she was looking for. Got it, Ino said. It seems that two Akatsuki attacked them and took Gaara away. Their names are Sasori and Deidara. Hinata let out a weary sigh. I dreaded it. We need to inform both Hokage-sama and Tsunade. Let somebody else do that. We have a work to finish here, Tsunade told her, before something Ino said registered in her brain. Wait a minute, you said Sasori? Yes, that's the name I heard in both their minds. It can't be a coincidence, Ino confirmed. Why? Sasori is Chiyo's grandson. He disappeared 20 years ago, and nobody has seen him since. Guess that solves both that mystery and why this poison felt so familiar, Tsunade said. When Naruto learns of this, there won't be anything to stop him from going to rescue Gaara himself, Hinata mentioned. I know, Tsunade sighed in defeat. That's why I'm counting on you to make sure that boneheaded son of mine comes back alive. Hinata nodded with determination. You can trust him to me, Tsunade-sama. An indeterminate amount of time later, Temari stirred as she slowly opened her eyes. She had to blink a couple times, in order for her eyes to get used to the initially bright light of the early morning. Standing up, she groaned as she looked around, finding the surroundings worryingly unfamiliar. Ugh! She groaned. Huh? A female voice said beside her. You're awake? Temari looked at the blue-haired, pale-skinned girl sitting beside her. Hinata? Temari-san? You're awake, Hinata said, visibly happy. She then walked outside the hospital room, and said to somebody outside, Naruto-kun, she's finally awake. Unsurprisingly, Naruto rushed into the room with an excited, but visibly not overjoyed expression. Finally. We were so worried. Naruto loudly said. Shh, we're in a hospital. Hinata chided her boyfriend. Naruto acknowledged Hinata with a sheepish nod. Yeah, sorry. Naruto's loud outburst caused Kankuro to awake from his sleep as well. His reaction was the same as Temari's. Who the hell is yelling? Kankuro complained in a whisper, as confusion started to dawn once he realized where he was. What, where am I? It's safe to assume we made it to Konoha. But more importantly, Temari interrupted, now more awake. How long have we been here? Temari could feel the tension in the atmosphere growing thicker, which made her dread the answer ever more. You've been here for almost a day, Hinata gravely said. We know about Gaara. Ino-san scanned your minds while you were unconscious. What? Kankuro indignantly asked. Sorry for invading your privacy like that, but we needed to know what happened in order to prepare accordingly, Hinata explained. Besides, Ino-san only probed the last few hours' worth of memories, so it's nothing you should worry about. Now I'm guessing you want to go and look for Gaara, right? Naruto asked. Both Temari and Kankuro scowled at such obvious question. Do we really need to answer? Temari asked. Thought so. If you feel better, get dressed and come with us to the Hokage's tower. We need to prepare for a few things before we leave, Naruto said. Kankuro and Temari nodded. Hokage's tower, half an hour later. Inside the council room were gathered Jiraiya, all 4 members of Kurenai's assault squad, Temari, and Kankuro. While I'm willing to lend you my best ninja to help with Gaara's rescue, we have a problem, Jiraiya stated. We don't know where they took Gaara, and even if we put our best trackers to work, we'd still need something with Gaara's or his captor's scent, which we don't have. Besides, we still don't know if Gaara is still alive, Kurenai intervened, before sending the Sand siblings an apologetic look. Sorry if I'm being pessimist, but it's a possibility we must take into account. Fortunately, we have the solution to both problems right here, Temari said as she pulled out a compass from the folders of her robe. A compass? Hinata asked, tilting her head in slight confusion. Not a normal compass. This compass was made with special fuinjutsu, and is attuned to Gaara's chakra signature. The needle marks the direction Gaara is, and the fact that it needle still moves means that he's still alive. Jiraiya opened his eyes wide in shock. But, that's extremely dangerous. If it fell in the wrong hands, such artifact would make hunting Gaara trivially easy. We're aware of that. That's why only 4 of these compasses were made. Temari and I carry 2 of them, and the other 2 are under our father's watch, Kankuro explained. We decided to make them in case something like this happened, which as you can see, it did. All what we need to do is follow the compass and rescue Gaara. Speaking of which, how much time do we have? Haku asked. Because no doubt the Akatsuki will try to extract Gaara's beast as soon as possible. Not just that, but they also need to seal it in another container, either a human or something else, Jiraiya added. According to my available knowledge, it's a long and exhausting process. Though between 10 people, they can accelerate the process. My estimate is that we have 3 days until the tailed beast is removed and Gaara dies. A deafening silence fell upon the room, as everybody weighed down the Hokage's words. 3 days. That's a very narrow window, Hinata said, almost in a whimper. Less than 3 days, Temari corrected them. We spent a whole day here, recovering. We only have 2 days at best to do it. Let's hope they didn't take him too far. If they want to start the extraction process as soon as possible, they'll have to be somewhere near the place you were attacked. My best bet would be the land of the rivers, since it's a small country with no ninja village. The best place to set a hideout, Jiraiya suggested. Kankuro checked his compass. The needle does point in the direction of the land of the rivers. I don't think they would go any further, or else they'd go into the land of wind. Akatsuki wouldn't dare to set a base there. Sadly, they would, so don't be so quick to discard that possibility, Naruto pointed out. Anyway, I think we've talked long enough, can we go now? Jiraiya nodded. Indeed. However, be careful, Naruto. Remember Akatsuki is also after you. Don't sweat it, Dad. I'll give up ramen before letting such thing happen, Naruto said, with his trademark confident grin. Meanwhile, I'll send a toad messenger to Sunagakure in order to warn them about what happened. Hopefully, they will provide them with reinforcements, Jiraiya told them. Good luck to all of you. All of them nodded and left the council room, ready to leave the village and look for Gaara as soon as possible. A few hours later, the group of 6 were traversing the forests of the Land of Fire as fast as they could, leaping from one tree branch into the next. From time to time, Temari or Kankuro would take a look at their compasses, not just to check they were in the right direction, but to see if Gaara was still alive. So far, the needle still moved. They might arrive in time yet. Kankuro, Temari, Kurenai broke the silence. Tell us about the Akatsuki who attacked you. We'll have to face them more than likely. Both Kankuro and Temari nodded, before the latter started to speak. The one Kankuro and I fought against is a master puppeteer, who claimed to be Sasori of the Red Sands, one of Suna's most skilled ninja, Temari said. That puppet he used to fight us, hell, I even feel unworthy of calling myself a puppeteer. And I'm sure he is others way more dangerous than that, Kankuro bitterly said, gritting his teeth. Is Sasori related to one of your village elders, the one named Chio? Hinata asked. Temari looked at the Hyuga, mildly confused. Yeah, that's true. How is that relevant? When Tsunade-sama analyzed the poison, she said it was similar to the ones Chio used to concoct back in the Second Ninja War. Though this one was far more advanced, Hinata pointed out. That's too much of a coincidence to discard. Though those are really bad news if that guy was really Sasori, Temari said, with a shiver. Why do you say that? Haku asked. Sasori alone managed to stop Iwa's forces from entering the Land of the Wind. If it wasn't for him, Suna could have come out of the war in even worse shape than we did, Kankuro explained. In fact, the Red Sands part of his name is because whenever he was in the battlefield, the sand of the desert ended up dyed in red due to the all blood spilled by his puppets. The Konoha ninja grew uneasy at the fearsome reputation just one of their potential enemies had. Even if they already knew this, they only had very few information on its members and their past exploits. What about the other guy? Haku asked. That was the one who fought and defeated Gaara, Kankuro continued. It was a blonde, well, I dunno. I couldn't tell if it was a guy or a girl, honestly. I mean, it sounded like a man but looked like a girl. Kinda like you, Haku. Haku raised an eyebrow in annoyance, while Temari snickered a little. Something clicked within Naruto's minds, and the jinchuriki opened his mouth to speak. Did that guy fight with explosives, while flying on top of a weird giant bird? Yes, precisely, Temari said. Do you know this man? Naruto nodded, and his expression darkened. I met him before. His name is Deidara. He appeared during the Kirigakura invasion to abduct Yagura. Unfortunately, both May and I were far too exhausted to stop him that moment. And now, that asshole returned to do the same thing to Gaara. Hinata noticed Naruto's anger and jumped close to him. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. We'll stop both him and the rest of Akatsuki, so they won't hunt any more jinchuriki, Hinata reassured him. Naruto's frown vanished, and smiled a little at his girlfriend's support. Deidara nearly killed me as well during the Battle of Kirigakura, Haku interjected. Had I been a second slower, both me, Deidara-san, as well as many Kiri ninja would have perished, engulfed by the fire of his explosives. Kurenai-sensei, do you carry a bingo book? Naruto asked. The raven-haired woman nodded, before the blonde continued. I know Deidara has a profile there. We should take a look before we engage him. Indeed. Even if we know he uses some sort of explosive jutsu, getting more information won't hurt, Kurenai agreed. The group of 6 continued their trek discussing among each other possible strategies and ways to take down the 2 Akatsuki. And unbeknownst to them, an inhuman being watched them as they moved. Meanwhile, back at the Akatsuki hideout, the 10 missing nin continued the extraction process. That is, until Zetsu was startled by the new information that reached his brain. Something that didn't go unnoticed by the leader. Zetsu, don't falter. We still have a long way to go until the extraction process is complete, the leader said, as he fixed his rippled eyes on the plant man. It's not that, boss. One of my clones saw a force of Konoha ninja heading towards the hideout's direction, the white half of Zetsu informed. I think they're coming to the Jinchuriki's rescue. How do you know they're coming for us? The location of this hideout is a secret, the only female of the Akatsuki said. Yeah. They could be a squad of ninja going on an unrelated mission, Kakuzu suggested. For starters, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is in the group, and looked agitated. And second, 2 Suna ninja were with them. The Jinchuriki's siblings, to be precise, White Zetsu said. Naturally, this drew Sasori's attention. That's impossible. I poisoned them. No one has been able to make an antidote to my poisons, and even if by some chance somebody was able to, there's no way they could have done it in such little time. It's obvious what happened, Sasori-san, Orochimaru intervened. If they came from Konoha's direction, it means they were able to reach the village. Remember that Tsunade Heim is in Konoha, and to her, making an antidote for your poison would have been trivially easy. Sasori frowned once again at Orochimaru's dig. For all his quarrels with Deidara, he preferred the psychotic blonde over the smug Sannin as a partner. He didn't miss the days in which the two of them were part of the same 2-man team. Even then, there's no way for them to know we're here, right? Deidara asked. They can, if they use the same compass we use to track the Jinchuriki, Sasori replied. As long as the Jinchuriki is alive, they'll be able to track his position. How long until they reach this place, Zetsu? The leader asked. I'd say less than a day. They're moving really fast. In a few hours, they'll reach the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Rivers, the plant man informed. We can't afford taking such a big risk. Somebody needs to go there and delay them until the extraction is complete, the leader stated. Perhaps I can be of assistance, Orochimaru offered. I placed some of my minions close to the lair in case something like this happened. While I doubt they will be able to defeat Naruto-kun and his allies, they'll buy us enough time to complete the ritual. Not to mention, they'll be far more exhausted once they arrive to rescue their little friend. Good, and once they reach this lair, we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone and capture the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the female Akatsuki said. Obito didn't say anything, as he carefully listened to the whole exchange. Orochimaru, every day you grow more dangerous, but you still prove to be too useful to eliminate yet, Obito thought. One could say that the solution to his problem was to use Shisui's eyes mind-controlling powers on the Sannin. Which he already did, but Orochimaru somehow managed to shrug the genjutsu off. He found later that Orochimaru's skull is carved with protective seals to stop enemies from probing or tampering with his mind, a measure he originally developed in case he was at the mercy of the Yamanaka working at Konoha's T&I department. But one day, your usefulness will come to an end. And without the Akatsuki to cover your back and provide you with resources, your other enemies won't take long to wipe you out. Back to the forests of the Land of Fire, the group of 6 continued jumping from one branch to the other, mentally preparing themselves for the battle that no doubt would happen in a few hours. However, they weren't prepared for the battle that was about to happen in a few seconds. Without any kind of warning, a giant snake emerged out of nowhere, its jaws wide open, ready to swallow Hinata in one go. Fortunately, while startled, the brunette's sharp reflexes didn't fail to save her. Heavenly spin. Hinata turned into a spinning sphere of chakra the moment the snake's giant jaws closed upon her. The force of the spinning caused the snake to recoil, hissing in pain. With another thundering racket, another snake, just as big as the first one, burst through the trees, this time aiming for Haku. The ice ninja nimbly jumped aside, dodging the attack, as he made several hand seals. Ice release, breath of winter. Haku breathed an extremely powerful gust of frozen wind that covered the giant snake in frost. The reptile hissed in pain as well, as it quickly slithered away. Where the hell these things came from? Temari shouted as she prepared to attack in case more of them came. There are only 2 snake summoners we're aware of. One of them is Anko, a ninja loyal to Konoha. The other one is Orochimaru, Kurenai explained. Does that mean that Orochimaru is here? Naruto asked as worry began to creep through his back. Orochimaru-sama doesn't have the time to deal with insignificant vermin like you. That's why we're here, a new voice said. The group of 6 saw a man wearing an armored version Otogakure uniform landing on a tree branch in front of them. A large broadsword was hanging on his back. His hands quickly ran through hand seals. Lightning release, snake thunder. The man's arms started to crackle with yellow electricity, as the lightning gathered and formed into a snake, which lunged at the group. Hinata jumped forward. Byakugan. After activating her bloodline limit, she also ran through hand seals. Lightning release, thunder palm. Hinata gave a swipe with one of her electricity-imbued hands, deflecting the snake-shaped lightning bolt aside. At that moment, Temari stepped forward, war fan already unfolded. Great sickle weasel jutsu. With a single blow of her fan, Temari produced a brutal gale force wind, which tore nearby tree branches free of leaves, and hurled the auto ninja backwards. Watch out, there's another one ready to attack. Hinata warned, as she pointed to her left. Not bad, girl, a female voice said, and another Otogakure ninja showed up. She started to make hand seals. But we don't need the element of surprise to deal with you. Wood release, wood dragon jutsu. What? Naruto asked in shock. From the ground, a serpentine dragon emerged, and let out a powerful roar before it lunged at the Konoha and Tsunade ninja. Just as we feared, Orochimaru managed to successfully grant somebody the first Hokage's abilities, Kurenai realized. Hinata, can you take a good look at their appearance? The Hyuga nodded, and focused their Byakugan on their faces. She gasped upon seeing how they looked behind those balaclavas. Hinata? Naruto worriedly asked, no affectionate honorific this time. The first thing the Hyuga saw was that 2 auto ninja were pretty much twins, given how much they resembled each other. They had pale skin and short white hair, the female being a little longer than the males, and pretty faces with soft features. Both of them had bright yellow eyes. Their faces, they look a lot like your little siblings, if they were adults, Hinata said in shock. What? Naruto loudly asked as he tried to make sense of what the Hyuga said. How? Guess they're clones. It seems Orochimaru managed to get some DNA samples of them before we rescued them, Haku guessed. It doesn't matter who they are. They're enemies who are blocking us from reaching Gaara, Temari shouted, putting an end to the discussion, and forcing everybody to focus on the battle at hand. Naruto, the man is a lightning release user, so you'll be the best suited to fight him. I'll go with you as well, Kurenai asked. In that case, I'll join you too, given that I'm a wind release user as well, Temari offered. However, Kankuro placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Huh? Let me go instead. Your wind attacks can clear all the trees that girl can summon, while my puppet won't be that good against her, Kankuro told her. I thought Sasori had destroyed all your puppets, Temari said. Kankuro shook his head. Not all of them. I still have one with me. I didn't use it because it isn't properly tested yet, but guess I have no other option. This will have to be the test run. Temari didn't find any holes in his brother's logic, and nodded. All right then. Be careful. You too, Kankuro replied, as he followed Naruto and Kurenai, while he pulled a scroll from underneath his robe. Temari then turned at Hinata and Haku, ready to fight the mysterious woman who could wield the fabled bloodline limit of the first Hokage. Ready, Temari-san? Hinata asked. Temari nodded, before dangerously scowling at their enemy. You guys are going to regret getting in our way. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 2 clones appeared besides Naruto. You know what to do. The clones merely nodded, and leapt away in different directions. Before Kurenai had the chance to ask what he was planning and confirming her guesses, Kankuro joined them. Kankuro, you're going to fight with us? Kurenai asked. Without puppets? Naruto added. While I can fight without puppets, I still have one in reserve, Kankuro replied, as he unfurled the scroll he was carrying in front of him. From a burst of smoke, a puppet appeared. It had the same dull brown and black color scheme of Kankuro's other puppets, albeit this one was different from the others. It was rather bulky, with a stout main body, thick arms, short legs, and a head that looked like an ancient helmet. On its right hand it was carrying a massive rectangular shield. Numerous seals were carved alongside its plating and shield. Does this look familiar, Naruto? Kankuro asked with a smirk, as he attached the puppet with some chakra threads. It looks like an Uzumaki war golem, Naruto said in realization. Indeed. After you guys gave us a couple golems, father allowed me to study one. And well, let's say I made a lot of breakthroughs in the art of puppet crafting, Kankuro proudly said. So all of you, meet Tamatsu, my newest puppet. Naruto smirked in return. Alright then, let's see how the union of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu and Tsunade's puppets do against this enemy, the blonde said as he eyed the man in front of him. In less than a second, Naruto's chakra sword appeared on his hand, projecting a blue-colored blade of pure chakra. Let's go. The blonde jinchuriki dashed forward, ready to engage the new enemy. The Auto Ninja unsheathed his broadsword and used it to parry Naruto's initial strike. The fact that his sword didn't break, and the almost unnoticeable faint blue glow made Naruto realize his enemy was also channeling chakra through his sword in order to make it stronger. They did trade a few blows. Naruto managed to parry and dodge all the attacks from his opponent, but then again, he was also unable to land a strike on his opponent. Alright then, Naruto said as he disengaged. His sword's blade started to burn with a white light, showing that he was now channeling wind chakra through it. Let's see what you do against this. Naruto slammed his wind blade into the ground, releasing a powerful gust of razor wind that cracked the ground as it flew towards the Auto Ninja. Said man stabbed his sword into the ground, as he made several hand seals. Wind release, breath of God. The masked ninja blew a tornado to counter Naruto's attack. The tornado grew bigger as it advanced, cracking the ground as well, and sucking some dirt and grass leaves as it advanced. Finally, both attacks met each other, resulting in a blast of wind blowing in every direction. Earth release, mud trap. Suddenly, the ground beneath the Auto Ninja's feet turned into mud, quickly sinking him into the ground until the level of his knees. Shit! The Auto Ninja yelled. No, it's just mud. That would be disgusting, Kurenai's voice said behind him. A kunai appeared on her hand. Now die. The Auto Ninja managed to quickly make a hand seal, and blew a gust of wind to the ground, propelling himself upwards while narrowly avoiding Kurenai's strike. He made several hand seals as he descended. Lightning release, golden storm. Yellow lightning started to crackle around the Auto Ninja's body, before he was enveloped into a bright coat of yellow electricity. Lightning bolts started to fly around, some of them aimless, most of them, towards the trio of ninjas in front of him. My turn. Kankuro called, as he positioned Tamatsu between them and the enemy. Mechanical Great Light Shield Block. Tamatsu raised its massive shield, and one of the seals carved on it started to glow. It then projected a blue cone of chakra that covered the Kankuro and his 2 Konoha allies. The lightning bolts harmlessly crashed against the chakra shield. Now, time to counterattack, Kankuro said, as he made a finger motion. Tamatsu lowered its shield, and aimed its other arm at the Auto Ninja. Its hand split in two, revealing a small cannon inside. From the cannon fired a stream of flames. The Auto Ninja merely tossed a smoke grenade at his feet, and when the fire stream reached the ensued smokescreen, he was nowhere to be seen. They noticed a hole in the spot when he was a second ago, surrounded by small flames caused by the puppet's flamethrower. Watch out, he used a headhunter jutsu. He'll attack from below. Kurenai warned the boys. And true to her words, the earth started to shake shortly afterwards. However, the Auto Ninja didn't attack. In his place, the same snake had attacked them before burst from underground, forcing the 3 ninja to jump in different directions. I can't believe I forgot about the giant snake, Kurenai said, sounding more annoyed than worried. In that case, then maybe we should equate the balance, Naruto said, as he made several hand seals, before biting his thumb. Summoning Jutsu. From a cloud of smoke, a massive toad appeared. It was magenta-colored, with black markings on his face, arms and legs. He wore a black kimono with a white sash and mesh armor underneath. On his hands there were a Sakazuki-like shield Asasumata. "Hello, Naruto-san," the toad politely greeted his summoner. "Hi there, Gameiken. Think you can help us to deal with that guy and his pet snake?" Naruto asked. Gameiken took a glance as said Auto Ninja, and then at the giant snake, which dangerously slithered towards them. "I think I can be of assistance. Though I should warn you, I'm rather clumsy." Naruto gently smiled at the humble toad. "I think you'll do fine." Upon seeing its natural prey in front of it, the giant snake instantly lunged towards Gameiken. Gameiken raised his shield to protect himself from the attack, as it counterattacked with the Sasumata. At that point, the Auto Ninja decided to go onto the offensive as well. As he rushed, he thrust an arm forward. Hidden Shadow Snake Hands. As its name suggested, a multitude of snakes appeared from under the Auto Ninja's sleeve, and all of them lunged at Naruto, letting out high-pitched hisses. Naruto merely beheaded those snakes with a swipe of his wind blade, as he rushed to attack his now wide-open enemy. Or that's what he thought, as the masked man quickly thrust his other arm, releasing more snakes at Naruto, forcing him to break his charge, and take a step back. "Got you," Kankuro said as he motioned his hands down. A shadow loomed over the masked ninja, who looked up too late to see the large frame of Tamatsu descending upon him. The puppet's large shield slammed against him first, before the rest of the weight added to the impact power, causing the Auto Ninja to burst through the sheer force of the hit. Though rather than blood and guts, the burst was of even more snakes. "What?" Kankuro asked, confused. "A snake clone. Anko uses them too. These guys are more than mere pawns of Orochimaru if he taught them how to use snake-related jutsu," Kurenai explained. "Watch out!" Kankuro called as he quickly turned around, placing Tamatsu in front of him. Naruto and Kurenai turned around as well, and saw Tamatsu barely intercepting a sword strike that was intended for Kankuro. Even if the puppet had activated its chakra shield, the arm holding it was torn apart from the main body by the sheer force of the impact, which also hurled the damaged puppet backwards. "Damn it, not this one too," the puppeteer complained, as he rushed to check his downed puppet. "I can't believe I have to resort to this," the Auto Ninja said. The Konoha ninja noticed that there was a faint white glow pulsing from his body, a glow Naruto was worriedly familiar with. "But then again, Orochimaru-sama already warned us that your power far exceeded that of the enemies we faced in the past. So it is true. He made you with my sibling's DNA," Naruto sadly concluded, as he recognized the power his enemy was now using. He slipped into a fighting stance, as his mouth curved into a confident grin. "Too bad your master sent you to fight against the one person who knows exactly how your power works." Meanwhile, on the branches above, Hinata, Haku and Temari were engaging the female Auto Ninja that could use Wood Release. Wood Release, Great Forest Jutsu. The masked Kunoichi's arms turned into a mass of thick wooden vines ended in sharp edges, that spread in a wide area, and lunged at the three ninja, which promptly jumped back to avoid being skewered. Temari reared her battle fan back. "Hinata, Haku, move aside." The Suna Kunoichi yelled, before swinging her weapon of choice forward. Great Weasel Sickle Jutsu. Temari blew a powerful current of razor-sharp wind that shredded the incoming wooden vines, as well as nearby tree branches, and still pack enough power to push the Auto Kunoichi backwards. Hinata decided this was the best moment to attack, as she leapt forward while making several hand seals. Lightning Release, Twin Thunder Lion Fists. Hinata's hands were covered in chakra blue flames, that quickly took the shape of lion heads. Said heads started to crackle with electricity. Upon landing on the thick branch her enemy was perched on, Hinata began a flurry of strikes at the Auto Kunoichi, who did her best to dodge Hinata. However, the Hyuga's jutsu had a far greater range than one would judge at first sight, and even if dodged, the masked Kunoichi ended up receiving a lot of electricity-imbued hits. "Shit!" the masked Kunoichi yelled, as she barely avoided another hit by Hinata. She jumped back into the ground, as she made more hand seals. "If I let her hit me with that, I'm done." Wood Release, Ironwood Armor. A green aura flared around the Auto Kunoichi, followed by a small burst of smoke. After that, she was completely covered in an armor that appeared to be made of wood, leaving only her yellow eyes exposed. Hinata was undeterred, and pressed the attack. Her armored enemy seemed more confident, fighting in a more offensive manner. Sharp spikes grew all over the armor, the ones on her knees and forearms being the longest, and used them to attack the Hyuga. Hinata expertly parried her blows, while returning her own. One of them managed to land on the armored kunoichi's shoulder, shattering the wooden armor protecting that zone. Hissing, she jumped onto a higher branch, as she held the damaged shoulder on her hand. In a few seconds, the wooden armor grew back, covering it once again. That armor won't protect you. Wood is a combination of water and earth, both of which are vulnerable towards lightning, Hinata explained. Enough, she yelled, as she pulled out a flash grenade, and tossed it down to the branch she was perched onto, producing a sudden flash of bright light. My eyes! Hinata screamed as she dispelled her jutsu and instinctively brought her hands to her eyes. All right then, the Oto Kunoichi said as a sharp wooden spear appeared on her hand. She raised the spear above the blinded Hinata. Say good. Ice release, 1,000 needles of death. Wind release, wind scythe jutsu. The wood release user was assaulted by a storm of ice flechettes, followed by several crescent-shaped blades of wind, forcing her to move in order to dodge those attacks. Don't forget about us, Temari shouted at her. Haku walked towards her teammate. Hinata, are you okay? Hinata nodded, wordlessly. Haku then noticed that the Hyuga wasn't just covering her eyes, since her hands glowed with a faint green light. She then removed her hands from her eyes, and opened them, adjusting to the light with no problem. You're outnumbered, surrender already, Temari shouted. I'm not as outnumbered as you think. Don't forget about my allies. The Oto Kunoichi said, as she stomped her foot. The Konoha and Sannin ninjas heard a loud rustle, followed by the sound of several branches breaking, and one of the giant snakes that ambushed them before appeared seemingly out of nowhere, lunging at Haku. The ice ninja, however, was hardly fazed, as he jumped backwards while making several hand seals. Ice release, breath of winter. Haku blew a gust of frozen air at the incoming snake, which took the brunt of the attack. As a result, the snake's jaws were encased in a block of ice, preventing it to open its mouth. Sorry, but that's what you get for trying to eat us, Haku said with a smirk. The snake didn't appreciate Haku's taunt, and even with its jaws sealed, the reptile lunged at the ice ninja with murderous intentions in its eyes. Guess I was being too optimistic when I thought that would be enough to get rid of you, Haku said, before jumping over the snake, as he prepared his next jutsu. Alright then. You're not going to enjoy this. Meanwhile, Hinata had already recovered from her temporary blindness, and she and Temari were about to engage the masked kunoichi once again. Even if my snake got rid of that annoying ice release user, I still have to contend with you too, the Oto Kunoichi observed. Alright then, let's invert the number advantage. Wood release, wood clone jutsu. 4 vine sprouts grew around the Oto Kunoichi, quickly taking her form and shape. All of them adopted fighting stances. Go! The wood release user and her clones leapt at the 2 kunoichi. I'll take care of the original. Can you get the clones out of my back? Hinata asked Temari. The Suna kunoichi smirked. Consider it done. As Temari blasted with gusts of wind the clones that tried to approach her or her Konoha ally, Hinata rushed towards the original, making the same hand seals as before. Lightning release, twin thunder lion fists. As before, chakra lion heads covered in electricity appeared on Hinata's hands as she got ready to fight. The kunoichi groaned, as she prepared her counterattack. Not that jutsu again. Wood release, wood dragon jutsu. The Oto Kunoichi projected a growing wood dragon from her interlocked hands, which flew at Hinata as it let out a loud roar. The Hyuga was undaunted, as she thrust an arm forward towards the incoming dragon head. The effect was instant, and its head was immediately shattered. A blow with the other hand ensured that the rest of its serpentine body met the same fate. Hinata landed in front of her, her feared jutsu still active. Your wood release, it's impressive, but it won't be enough to overcome us, Hinata told her, as she walked towards the armored Oto Kunoichi. Wood release is much more than a mere combination of 2 basic elements, Hyuga. It's the power of life itself. The kunoichi replied as she slammed her hands into the ground. The ground started to shake, and multiple wooden vines emerged around Hinata. Said vines tried to impale or wrap around her, but the Hyuga gracefully dodged them before destroying them with an accurate strike. More and more vines started to emerge, to the point that Hinata was starting to feel overwhelmed. You can't win against me, since you're fighting against nature itself. The Oto Kunoichi boasted. Fortunately, Hinata had the perfect counter for an overwhelming attack from every side. The moment she had a window of a single second, she quickly started to spin. Lightning release, heavenly thunderstorm. Hinata turned into a dome of spinning electricity, which blasted all the vines around her into tiny splinters. Lightning bolts and chakra blasts shot into every direction, cracking the ground, burning the grass, and sending dust, wind and pebbles in a wide area. Storms are also part of nature, Hinata firmly replied as her spinning ceased. She spread her arms, and the lightning chakra lion heads reappeared once again, before dashing towards her enemy. Then, she stopped when they heard an explosion not far away from there. More specifically, where Naruto and the others were fighting. The armored Kunoichi let out an audible gasp. Brother! With Kankuro's puppet damaged, Naruto and Kurenai were on their own against the Auto Ninja. Thanks to the nature energy he was collecting, he moved much faster, displayed more resistance, and his blows were far more powerful. This time, Naruto and Kurenai decided to attack the two of them at the same time. Wind release, cyclone vortex. Earth release, crushing avalanche. Naruto thrust his interlocked hands forward, projecting a powerful horizontal cyclone. Kurenai summoned several rocks above them, and tossed them into Naruto's attack, creating a tornado of flying rocks. You think you're so clever, combining both attacks, the Auto Ninja sneered, as he made several hand seals. But elemental weaknesses are meaningless in the face of the power I possess. Lightning release, golden storm. Once again, a golden aura flared around the masked ninja, as yellow lightning bolts flew from his body towards the incoming elemental attack. The three jutsu clashed into an explosion, raising a cloud of dirt and dust. Then, a looming shadow was cast over him, and the Auto Ninja barely avoided the incoming Gameiken falling on top of him. Gameiken tried to hit him with his Sasumata, but the Auto Ninja was too fast. He then launched himself at the giant toad, and delivered such a powerful flying kick to the amphibious face, that it made him topple on his back. Ugh! The toad croaked as he hit the ground. Gameiken, Naruto cried before turning his eyes at his opponent, wind sword in hand, and sped after him. The Auto Ninja raised his broadsword to parry the incoming blow, and much to his surprise, he found himself being pushed back by the sheer force of the attack. Your strength has increased, the masked ninja noted. Your sword strikes didn't pack such power before. What did you? It was then when he noticed that Naruto's eyes were now yellow with horizontal pupils, and had orange markings around them. The blonde grinned. Think you're the only one who can use nature energy? Naruto asked, keeping his smirk. How? Nature energy is impossible to gather unless you're still. Only my ability can overcome such obstacle. The masked ninja asked, in shock. I'm tempted to tell you, but I think I prefer to see you try to guess it yourself, Naruto replied as he pulled out a second wind blade from his ninja tool pouch, and activated it. Now get ready. Having two weapons now, Naruto's fighting style drastically changed. He now delivered a flurry of quick strikes from one arm each, forcing his opponent into the defensive. Seeing that sword fighting wasn't working, the Auto Ninja tried a different approach. He tossed his broadsword at Naruto, before thrusting his arms forward. Multiple hidden shadow snake hands. Right after swiping the broadsword away, Naruto saw a multitude of snakes emerging from under his enemy's sleeves. Their trajectory seemed a bit off, and too late the blonde realized that they weren't lunging at his body, but at his hands. The snakes sank their multiple fangs onto the blonde's forearms, forcing him to drop his trusty weapons. Arg! Naruto screamed as he fell on his knees. The Auto Ninja smirked under his mask, as he directed some of his snakes to wrap around Naruto's neck. Not so cocky now, huh? He taunted. Any last words before I end your miserable life? Why yes, Naruto said weakly, before smirking at him. Don't forget about Kurenai-sensei. Then, Naruto burst into a flock of butterflies. What the confused masked man stammered. Wait a minute, this is a genjutsu. I have two. Rasengan. In a split second, the Auto Ninja saw Naruto slamming a spiraling sphere of chakra into his gut. It had the side effect of dispelling the genjutsu, but it didn't matter since the illusion made its job. The sphere expanded, before it exploded, violently hurling the Auto Ninja away. Good job with that genjutsu, Kurenai-sensei, Naruto praised his teacher. It was thanks to sparring you in Sage mode that I managed to perfect them so much, Naruto, so don't give up your part of the credit, Kurenai smiled back. The two of them walked towards the downed Auto Ninja. He was still alive, since Naruto could sense his chakra. Crouching beside him, Naruto removed his balaclava in order to take a better look at him. Just like Hinata said, his face was what Hagane would like if he were a young adult. Naruto stayed silent for a few seconds, before he let out a weary sigh. Naruto? Kurenai asked. We should try to bring them to the village, Naruto suggested. However, we still need to rescue Gaara, and there's no way we can do that while keeping these guys around. Maybe we could send a message to the village and ask to send somebody else to take care of them? Kurenai suggested. Before Naruto had any chance to reply, wooden roots emerged from the ground, and lunged at the two Konoha Jonin, who quickly jumped back. "Don't dare touch my brother," a female voice said. The other auto ninja landed beside her fallen comrade, and helped him on his feet. "Hibaimaru, are you okay?" the woman asked. Hibiko, I. The man, apparently named Hibaimaru, weakly replied. "Don't talk, I'll take care of you," Hibiko replied. She then threw a smoke bomb at her feet, creating a curtain of smoke. When Naruto rushed forward, they weren't there anymore. Thanks to his temporary sensing abilities, Naruto knew she had body flickered into the forest, but decided not to chase them. "Naruto-kun," Hinata's voice said from behind. Naruto and Kurenai turned around, and saw Hinata, Haku and Temari running towards them. Kankuro, who had picked up the pieces of his puppet, walked towards them as well. "Where did the enemies go?" Temari asked. "The woman picked the guy up and disappeared," Naruto told them. Gameken slowly walked towards his summoner. "I'm sorry for not being enough of help. I'll try to work on my clumsiness for the next time you decide to summon me," Gameken apologized with a polite bow. Naruto earnestly smiled at the toad. "Hey, you did fine. Even if those guys got away, you got rid of that snake, and provided me for an opening to attack." "I'm glad that I was of some assistance," Gameken replied. "Since the battle is over, I shall now return to my Iboku. See you the next time you want my help, Naruto-san." And with that, Gameken disappeared in a poof of smoke. "It doesn't matter, they weren't our target," Temari said, as she pulled out her special compass. "Come on, we need to continue. The more time we waste, the lower the chances of saving Gaara." "Actually," Hinata began, rubbing her arm a bit. "Can't we rest for a bit? I spent a better portion of my chakra fighting that woman." "Same here," Haku said. "That snake was tough opponent, and I'm a bit exhausted." "And I need to fix my puppet," Kankuro chimed in. "Thankfully, the damage done isn't beyond repair." "What? Gaara's life is in peril. There's no time to rest," Temari insisted. "Temari-san," Kurenai called her. "I understand your concerns. But keep in mind that once we arrive their hideout, we'll have to fight against those Akatsuki that captured Gaara. And I wouldn't discount more being there. We shouldn't try to confront them if we aren't in top condition to fight." Temari tried to protest, but her brain was unable to come up with a good counter to Kurenai's arguments. She sighed in return. "How long until the extraction is complete?" the blonde Kunoichi asked. "As far as we think, one day," Kurenai replied. "Okay, we'll rest for a few hours, but not any longer. Understood?" she told them. Everybody nodded. The first order of business was to set up a campsite that they could use to rest and recover from the fight they just had. Akatsuki hideout. "Good news, everyone," Zetsu spoke, breaking the silence that had reigned for the past hours. "Orochimaru's minions did their job. My clones informed me that the rescue group has been forced to stop and rest. I knew those kids wouldn't disappoint me, Kokaku," Orochimaru chuckled. "Good, that bought us some precious time," the leader said. "I presume there's still 20 hours until the extraction process is complete. We'll be finished before they arrive." Everybody nodded, and kept focusing on the extraction process. The red stream of energy that flowed from Gaara's mouth into the statues not only continued unimpeded, but it was starting to become thinner with each hour. Chapter 53. A failed rescue? Or delaying tactics are nothing to sneeze at. Sunagakur, Kazekage State. As the sun started to set in the desert village, Raza was about to conclude a meeting he had with Suna's Council of Elders regarding both the village affairs, and the new treaty with Konoha and Kiri. Tensions were high, since a good deal of the councilors barely tolerated an alliance with their longtime allies of Konoha to begin with. They found the idea of an alliance with one of their worst enemies outrageous. "I still can't see why you're against this alliance," Chiyoba-sama, the Kazekage told one of the female councilors. "So far, we've gained a lot from it, and it's not even settled." Chiyo was an elderly woman with black eyes, wrinkled face, and dull lavender hair tied in a bun, with two bangs that framed her face. She has been the most prominent dissident to the idea of an alliance. Suna should be strong on its own, not depend on the charity of other villages. "Next thing I know you'll replace our proud puppeteering corps with those mechanical abominations from Uzushio," Chiyo scoffed. "Sister, please, don't insult Kazekage-sama in such a way," another counselor, an elderly man with shadowed eyes and thick gray eyebrows told her. No Kazekage in his right mind would dismantle Sunagakura's pride and joy. No Kazekage in his right mind should make us depend so much on foreign powers, Ebizo, Shio told her brother. Raza groaned and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Listen, either with or without your support, this alliance will have my approval and will continue until the very end. So just for once, try to make things easier for me and. Then, at that moment, a small, goggle-wearing toad carrying a scroll on his back appeared from a cloud of smoke in the middle of the table. The Kazekage and the counselors were sitting around. The ninja guarding the room immediately drew out their kunai and other weapons. In any case, it was an assassination attempt on the Kazekage or the counselors. What's the meaning of this? Raza bellowed. Hello there. My name is Kosuke. Are you the Kazekage? The small toad asked. Jiraiya-san said that the Kazekage was a man that sucked the joy of living out of you by being in the same room as him, and out of all the people here, you fit the description the best. So Jiraiya told you that, Raza said, his eye twitching a bit. Did that white-haired idiot send you here? With what purpose? Yes, he did. He said he had an urgent message for you, Kosuke replied before handing the scroll to the Kazekage. For your sake, someone better be dying, Raza fumed as he unfurled the scroll. As he read it, color started to disappear from his face. Kazekage-sama? A counselor asked. Raza didn't say anything. He then burst out of the council room, leaving the elders flabbergasted. Running as fast as his legs could carry him, the Kazekage slammed the door of his office open and entered the room. He started rummaging under his desk until he finally found what he was looking for, a hidden switch that revealed a secret compartment. Opening the compartment, Raza checked its contents, and his worst fears were confirmed. One of the special compasses designed to track Gaara down was missing. Forests of the Land of Fire, close to the border with the Land of Rivers. At the same time, the group of 6 decided to make camp and rest for a bit. It was decided that they would be on the move an hour before the sunrise, since they have no time to spare. After a light meal, all of them decided to go to sleep. Kankuro, who still had to repair his puppet, volunteered to make the first watch. Naruto left a clone for him as company, and to help him guard the camp. For the best part of an hour, the Suna Jonin and the clone stayed silent, the latter watching the former diligently working on his puppet. Then, the Naruto clone decided to break the silence. So, how it's going? The clone asked the hooded ninja. Almost done, Kankuro replied, not taking his eyes from the puppet. Though once all this mess is over and we go back home, I'm going to make Tamatsu even stronger than it was. After that fight with the white-haired guy, I have a good assessment of Tamatsu's capabilities and weaknesses. Boy, being a puppeteer sounds like it's even more work than I first imagined, the Naruto clone said, scratching the back of his head. Make no mistake, it is. But the payoff makes it worth it. Puppeteers are among Suna's most feared ninja for a reason, Kankuro proudly claimed. I know. That's why Uzushio tried to take advantage of that, the Naruto clone said. This drew the hooded ninja's attention, which for the first time took his eyes from Tamatsu, and eyed the Naruto clone. What? What do you mean? The chakra golems, the clone replied. Didn't you notice the similarities? Yeah, the Uzumaki clan saw your puppeteers in action during the First War, and thought that maybe they could take the puppets and improve them. How? By making them move autonomous? Kankuro asked. The clone nodded. Ever heard the saying the weakest part of a sword is its wielder? Well, Uzumaki seal masters worked on that principle. They tried to create a kind of puppet that could move and act on its own, removing the need of having a ninja controlling it all the time, the clone explained. That way, they could be used to bolster an army's numbers, act as shock troops, defend human ninja, and more. Not a bad idea, I must admit, Kankuro said as he went back to work on his puppet. Not bad an idea? It was an awesome idea. Hell, I don't even know why you decided to convert those golems into a puppet in the first place, the clone groaned. Kankuro looked at the clone again, and grinned. It seems to me that both you and your deceased clansman forgot another important saying, a sword is only as good as the one who wields it. While it's true that the way your clan designed the golems would impress Monzeman himself. Who? Naruto interrupted. The inventor of puppet ninjutsu. His puppets were rudimentary for today's standards, but truly works of art in their time, Kankuro explained, before retailing the conversation. What I mean is, no matter how powerful you make those golems, they will never replace the need of the human element. You seem very sure of that, the clone said, crossing his arms. Because I am. Tell me, you fought against those golems in Kiri, right? The blonde nodded. Then answer me this, what was their attack pattern? Placing a finger under his chin, the clone tried to remember Naruto's time in Kiri over a year ago. Soon, it came with an answer. Well, they mostly relied on brute strength. They were big and packed a mean punch. They also had some weapons such as flamethrowers and hidden blades in their arms. Some also had kunai launchers. Doesn't sound very sophisticated, does it? Kankuro asked. In fact, that's why the golems are so big and bulky. They need to be, in order to compensate for their lack of intelligence and inability to come with complex plans and strategies. You already saw me in action, and saw what puppets are capable of. Do you think a golem could do the same things I can do with my puppets? To be honest, no, the clone admitted in defeat. Kankuro grinned. Thought so. But then again, this doesn't mean that I think the golems are worthless. The way they're capable of moving on their own is fascinating, and the supplementary seals are sure something. That's why I'm planning to create a new generation of puppets that will encompass the best of both worlds. It's a work in progress, but I have faith in my abilities. Naruto nodded. Hey, Kankuro, might I ask you something? Sure, the puppeteer replied. What moved you to become a puppeteer? Naruto asked. I mean, it sounds something quite daunting. Again, it is, Kankuro replied. As for what moved me to take that path, well, I guess the desire to stand out. I think you have siblings, right, Naruto? Kankuro asked. The clone nodded. A brother and a sister. The two of them younger. They're twins, actually. So, you're the oldest then, Kankuro said. Temari was the only girl, and the oldest of the three. Gaara was the youngest, and a jinchuriki. And there was me, the middle child with nothing that made me stand out. And my father is the Kazekage, so of course everybody had a lot of high expectations placed on us, myself included. When I realized that ninja puppeteers are considered among the deadliest and most skilled in our village, I decided to become one. Though the more I trained and the better I got, the more I loved it. Eventually my initial motivation faded away, and simply decided to throw myself into what I knew was my calling. Not that I'm not going to enjoy being admired for what I love doing, the puppeteer admitted. Hey, I can relate to that too. At first, I wanted to be Hokage so people would admire me and wouldn't fear me too for being a jinchuriki, you know? The clone began. But as I grow up, I'm starting to find better reasons to become Hokage than my own ego. Such as ending all the misery of this world, and bring us closer to a peaceful future. Sounds quite nice, even if a bit utopic, Kankuro replied. Hey, if we all just do nothing under the excuse that it's just an utopia, of course things will never get better. Naruto protested. Kankuro chuckled. Guess you got a point there. I wouldn't have become the ninja I am today if I let the difficulty of being a puppeteer discourage me from being one. See? All we need to do is keep trying until things get better, the clone stated. Later, Kankuro finished his shift and went to bed, while Naruto's clone was dispelled. He was then followed by the blonde's real self, Haku, Kurenai, Temari, and lastly, Hinata. The Hyuga spent some time watching alone, until the blonde Kunoichi left her sleeping bag, and went to make her company. Temari-san? Shouldn't you be sleeping? You already finished your shift, Hinata pointed out. Temari sighed. I don't think I'll be able to get any more sleep. The sun will rise in a couple hours. Plus I'm quite worried for Gaara, Temari said as she checked the compass. The needle still fluttered a little, indicating that Gaara was still alive. I know how you feel, Hinata replied. I have a little sister. If she was in Gaara-san's place, I don't know what I would do. But don't worry, we will save him. Don't doubt about that for a second. Temari smiled at her weakly. Thanks. I wish I could have your optimism right now. Though then again, dwelling in worst-case scenarios isn't going to be of any help. I know. We were once in a similar situation with Naruto-kun. In the end, everything worked out in our favor, though we just barely rescued Naruto-kun from his kidnappers, Hinata recalled. Are you talking about that time Orochimaru invaded your village? Temari asked. Hinata nodded. Turns out, it was just a smokescreen to kidnap Naruto-kun and the Hokage's children. Even if we rescued them, it's not that they came out of that unscathed. Temari chuckled. No matter how much hell Konoha takes, you guys always manage to endure. My father doesn't want anybody to know this, but he's kind of jealous of you guys, and wished Suna could be as strong as Konoha. I'm sure Suna is strong too, Temari-san, Hinata insisted. Temari chuckled again, though this time it sounded more like a dismissive snort. Oh please. Come on Hinata, I'm almost an adult, you don't have to lie to me like that. I'm more than aware that our village is the weakest of the Great Five. Hell, we resemble more a minor village than a great one. That's why our father has been determined to the point of obsession of making Suna as strong as possible. He's aware that we managed to survive so long thanks to Konoha's help, and while we appreciate our alliance, it's rather humiliating to think that we're so dependent on others. I remember Gaara-san winning the Chunin exams finals when they took place in Konoha. I'm sure that helped to improve your village's reputation, Hinata pointed out. It did. For some time. But we can't just hold on to Gaara's victory forever. There are Chunin exams every year, each with their respective victor, Temari said. Hell, I'm sure that if we returned to Suna, our medics wouldn't have been able to find a cure for Sasori's poison. Yet you did it in less than a day. Well, you can thank Tsunade-sama for that. If she never returned to the village, our medical knowledge and skill wouldn't be nowhere near as advanced. As an apprentice of hers, I can tell you that, Hinata pointed out. That's the thing, we don't have a Tsunade of our own to speak of. Which is why our father did everything in his hand to strengthen the village, which culminated into Gaara, Temari replied. That's why he was made a jinchuriki? Hinata asked. That's why Gaara exists to begin with, Temari replied, making Hinata look at her quizzically. Ah, yes, I forgot you didn't even know the whole story. Do you know why Gaara was chosen to be a jinchuriki, despite being the youngest? Did you even wonder why Kankuro and I were passed over? Now that you mention it, no, I never thought about that, Hinata admitted. When I was born, my father was already planning to make me the jinchuriki of the One Tail. But lucky me, I wasn't compatible due some chakra type bullshit I don't fully understand to this day, Temari began. So my parents went for another baby, and turns out, Kankuro wasn't compatible either. Turns out, there were complications during Kankuro's birth. The medics told my father that he shouldn't try for more children, since the risk of our mother not being able to make it was too high. But my father didn't listen to them. Gaara was born, and to my father's joy, he turned out to be compatible. However, the medics turned out to be right, and our mother died shortly after giving birth to him. I'm sorry to hear that, Temari-san. I know how painful losing a parent so young can be, Hinata empathically said. She then adopted a pensive expression, as her gaze shifted from Temari. It's okay. It happened a long time ago, and I'm over that already, Temari replied. You know, that reminds a bit of how Naruto-kun became a jinchuriki, Hinata began. You see, the Nine Tails can't be sealed into anyone. As far as we know, only those of the Uzumaki clan can hold it inside them, and Naruto-kun was the only Uzumaki back then. Guess that's why Naruto and Gaara click so easily. They have similarities not even they're aware of, Temari chuckled. However, there's something I don't understand, Hinata said. Why did the jinchuriki had to be a child of the Kazekage? Did he feel it was morally wrong to pick somebody else? Temari let out a mirthless laugh. My father thinking that something's morally wrong, now that's a good one. No, it's not because of that. He wanted the jinchuriki to be somebody close to him, somebody he could mold into a loyal asset to the village. In fact, it's a frequented practice in all great villages. I mean, take a look at Naruto, Temari said, as her and Hinata's eyes rested on the blonde sleeping form. The man who ended up adopting him became the Hokage. And even if he didn't, his wife could have been a good candidate. You can't chalk that to coincidences. I see, was Hinata's answer as she absorbed the information Temari had explained. Other than Naruto, Gaara, and that green-haired girl from Taki, Hinata hadn't had much contact with jinchuriki, so she didn't know much about them. She also remembered Yagura, who pretty much removed the middleman and became Mizukage himself. But enough talking about them. I think I don't know that much about you. Do you have any goals you want to accomplish? Temari asked. Hinata didn't reply. She placed a finger under her chin and started to think. Well, I want to be a strong ninja, to make my family proud, and one day being able to lead my clan and heal its rift. I like to think I'm getting a little closer to that goal with each day. Have you ever thought about having Jonin? Temari asked. It's mostly Jonin who take them, but some special Jonin are allowed to do it as well. At least in Suna. You'd think I'll make a good sensei? Hinata asked, a little flushed. You look like a patient and kind person, not to mention quite strong. The ideal combination for a Jonin sensei, Temari said. At first I was rather reluctant when I was told about it, since I thought it would be like taking care of my little brothers all over again, but it's a rather rewarding experience. Plus the time I spend taking care of said brothers prepared me for the job. Where are they now? Hinata asked. They should be in Suna. I left them a training routine for them to do while I was away doing this mission. Hopefully, I'll be able to whip them into shape for the next tuning exams in your village, Temari said. Hinata smiled. Hanabi-chan, my sister, also plans to enter alongside her team. Maybe her team and yours will clash in the exam? Temari grimaced a little, but chuckled. If your sister is half as good as you are, I hope not for my Jinan's sake. But then again, it might be good for them to face some strong opponents. Yes. The more prepared they are, the better. I'm sure you want them to get a promotion as soon as possible, but it's better to wait until they're ready, Hinata replied, then she looked downward. You know, when I was promoted, I felt I wasn't ready for the new rank, since my fighting style still had some rather glaring flaws I was barely able to hide. So far, I never noticed any flaw in your fighting style when we fought against those auto ninja, Temari complimented. Because I trained a lot after that. Guilt can be quite the motivator, Hinata chuckled awkwardly. You were pretty nice too. You're possibly the strongest kunoichi of my age group I've ever met. Thanks. I did train a lot from a very early age in order to become the very best, Temari proudly replied, before she cast her sight down. Though not as good, given how easily those Akatsuki kicked my butt. Hinata placed a comforting hand on Temari's shoulder. Don't beat yourself up for losing against Akatsuki. They're S-rank criminals for a reason. But don't worry, with our help, you'll be able to pay them back in kind for what they did to both you and your siblings. Temari smirked confidently, and nodded. Just as they planned, the group of 6 got up an hour before dawn and continued their journey towards the land of the rivers. Much to their relief, the compass still worked, meaning that there was still hope to save Gaara. But given how much time they were forced to spend resting, they knew Gaara could die at any moment. Hinata kept her Byakugan active at all times, just in case Akatsuki decided to throw more enemies to delay them. It was decided that if such thing happened, only 2 or 3 will stay behind to fight, while the rest could continue forward. They couldn't afford to waste any more time. Fortunately for them, it wasn't the case, as no enemy came to fight them. An hour after the sun rose, they reached the land of the rivers. It was then when Hinata saw something. There's a group of ninja ahead of us. They're in front of a cave blocked by a large boulder, Hinata informed her teammates. I believe it's the Akatsuki hideout. Are those guys Akatsuki? Haku asked. Hinata shook her head. All of them are wearing Tsunade's ninja uniforms and forehead protectors. They could be Akatsuki under a transformation, ready to ambush us, Kankuro conjectured. Hinata shook her head once again. The Byakugan can see through transformations. They're actual Tsuna ninja. Temari let out a sigh. Even if they're just 4, we could use some reinforcements. The 4 Konoha ninjas and 2 San siblings landed in front of the group of 4 Tsuna ninja. They were led by an adult woman with purple facial markings and a turban covering her head, a woman Naruto had seen before. Her subordinates were a girl with shoulder-length brown hair and black eyes, a boy with short spiky hair and glasses, and a smiling, friendly-looking girl with long black hair. The 3 of them were wearing the standard Sunagakure uniform, with the 2 young girls also wearing metallic arm guards. The adult woman took a step forward. Temari-sama, Kankuro-sama, it's a pleasure to see you're all right, the woman said in a courteous tone. As are we, Maki-san. You can thank Konoha for our recovery, Temari told the Jonin. Maki nodded and turned at the Konoha ninja. On Tsunade's behalf, I thank you for your assistance. She then looked at Naruto, and smiled. Hello again, Naruto-kun. You surely grew a lot since the last time I saw you. Hey, I remember you. You were there that time I visited Tsunade with Dad so many years ago, Naruto said, in realization. Man, time sure flies. Maki nodded before her expression darkened. It does. I just wish our meeting again was under better circumstances. By the way, these are my students, Matsuri, Mikashi, and Yukata. Matsuri and Mikashi made a polite bow when they were introduced. Yukata happily smiled and waved at the Konoha ninja. Kurenai took a step forward to do the same. My name's Kurenai Yuhi. These 2 are Hinata Hyuga and Haku Yuki. You already know Naruto, Kurenai introduced both herself and her team. Do not take this the wrong way, but are you the only reinforcements Tsunade has sent? Maki sighed and nodded at the Genjutsu mistress. Sadly, yes. Most of our ninja are away doing missions, plus the council fear that with our jinchuriki abducted, other villages might get some ideas and try to attack us taking advantage of this, so most of the reserve ninja have been put on patrol border duty. Guess we'll have to do with what we have, a resigned Temari said. I presume you found this place with one of the other 2 compasses? Yes. However, Temari-san, I do bring grave news. One of the compasses was stolen. That's how Akatsuki managed to locate and ambush you, Maki explained. Damn it. Our father kept those compasses under his watch himself. Hell, their mere existence was a secret to pretty much everybody sans a few ninjas whose loyalty to Suna was pretty much unquestionable. To think that there was a traitor among them. Kankuro angrily seethed. While the presence of spies in Suna is sure troubling, we have to rescue Gaara-sama as soon as possible, Matsuri spoke up for the first time. Gaara-sama might not have much time left. Damn right you are, Naruto agreed, before he looked at the large boulder blocking the entrance. So, Gaara is behind that rock, right? Maki nodded. Yes. However, the boulder is just part of the problem. It has a seal on it that made it pretty much indestructible. And we did use quite a lot of explosives. Yukata pointed out. Hey, I know a lot about seals. Let me take a look, I'm sure I can find a way to disable it, Naruto offered as he walked to the boulder and began to inspect the seal slapped into it. Hinata-san, use your Byakugan to scout the area. We need to know Gaara's state, as well as the number of enemies we're going to face. I wouldn't count past more Akatsuki being there besides Deidara and Sasori, Maki told the Hyuga. Hinata nodded. In an instant, bulged veins appeared around her eyes as her bloodline limit came to life. However, when she directed her sight towards the cave, the result wasn't the one the Hyuga was expecting. I can't see, Hinata muttered. The seal formed a chakra barrier that obscures my enhanced vision. Sorry. Kankuro muttered a curse under his breath. Which means we won't be able to do jack shit until we get rid of that seal first. Naruto, do you think? You have to be kidding me. The blonde angrily shouted, causing a few nearby birds to fly away scared. Naruto? Is there a problem with the seal? Kurenai asked a bit concerned, as she and the rest of the group got closer to him. I know this seal. It's a 5-seal barrier. Naruto explained, his anger coating each word. If you know the seal, where's the problem? Mikashi asked. This is an Uzumaki seal, Naruto exclaimed, outraged. Not just Kiri, but it seems that Akatsuki as well profited from my clan's downfall. The blonde shouted as he punched the seal, to no effect. Haku placed a comforting hand on the enraged blonde's shoulder. That's distressing to hear, Naruto-kun. But right now we have more pressing concerns. We need to know how to disable the seal. Realizing his teammate was right, Naruto took a deep breath, as he forced himself to calm down. Gaara needed him now. Yes. The 5-seal barrier, as the name implies, is a barrier formed by 5 seals. One seal is the core, and the others form the barrier around it. I presume this seal here is the core seal. The other 4 have to be scattered not too far away. Otherwise, the barrier wouldn't work. Leave that to me. Byakugan. Hinata activated her Dujutsu once again, and in a few seconds, she managed to find all 4 seals, since they had a strong chakra signature. Found them. To disable the barrier, the 5 seals must be removed at the same time. Otherwise, it won't work, Naruto finished his explanation. Well, sounds easy enough. Yukata happily chirped. Too easy, if you ask me, a suspicious Temari said. Naruto, is there a way for the seals to be booby-trapped? I wouldn't count that out. In fact, this seal is almost tailor-made to force a group to split in order to disable it, Naruto guessed. But, what options do we have then? Is there another way to disable it that doesn't force half of us to split? Our time is running out, Temari urged, as both her fists clenched. I think I can disable it, Naruto stated, as he kneeled down, and unsealed his sealing tools from a scroll. How long will you take, Naruto? Kankuro asked. 5 minutes, give or take, Naruto confidently stated as he started to work on the seal. I'm one of Suna's best seal masters. I'll lend you a hand, Maki offered as she joined the blonde. Okay, while Naruto and Maki-san work, the rest of us gather around here and listen to me as I told you about the enemies we're about to face. They're S-class criminals, so stay sharp, Temari began. One of them hails from our own village. Sasori of the Red Sands. When those words left her lips, Maki and Mikashi instantly gasped, while Yukata looked a bit confused. Do you guys know him? Because that name doesn't ring any bell, Yukata asked. Temari sighed. Yukata, I like you, but you need to pay more attention about important stuff like this. Aw, I like you too, Temari-sama. Yukata happily replied. So, about this Sasori guy? Temari held back another sigh. Sasori is the greatest and most dangerous puppet master Suna has ever produced. So far, we don't know what kind of puppets he'll use against us, but expect all of them to be weapons of mass destruction of their own. Also, beware of the bladed weapons and projectiles of his puppets, since they're coated in a deadly poison. Hinata-san, fortunately, made an antidote. We weren't able to make much before we left. All I have are 3 capsules, Hinata said, as she showed the 3 vials to everybody. This antidote will not only neutralize the effects of the poison once applied, but it will continue to do so for the next 3 minutes. However, like Temari-san said, try to be careful. The other one is a missing nin from Iwa named Deidara. He can animate sculptures out of clay and turn said sculptures into deadly explosives. His main method of attack is to drop explosives from above as he flies on an artificial bird made of clay, so long range is our only option. Be careful when dealing with him as well, since this guy alone managed to defeat Gaara, Temari explained. Okay, done. Naruto replied, satisfied with his quick work. Everybody looked at the seal, and saw that Naruto and Maki had written other seals in a circular pattern around it. True to his word, the blonde took less than 5 minutes. Let's hope it works, Maki said. We'll see right now, Naruto replied, as he placed a hand on the seal, and pumped chakra into it. Sealing art, void touch seal. The 5 barrier seals started to glow in retaliation, followed shortly after by the counter seal written around it. Naruto removed his hands as both seals started to fight each other. Eventually, the barrier seal lost, and it burst into flames. Hinata-hime? Naruto asked, looking at his girlfriend. Hinata nodded, and activated her bloodline limit for the 3rd and last time that day. Yes, the barrier is down. I can see them. Both Gaara and the Akatsuki. There are only 2 of them, I believe they're Deidara and Sasori, Hinata informed them. Gaara is still alive, but just barely. In that case, we need to get rid of this rock as soon as possible, Matsuri urged. It's pretty big, and looks sturdy. How many explosives do you think we'll need? Mikashi asked, as he walked closer to inspect the boulder. Naruto smirked. We won't need explosives. My girlfriend will be more than enough. Right, Hime? Naruto asked, giving Hinata a knowing look. Hinata smiled back, nodded, and clenched her fist. Blue chakra flames burst around it, as electricity started to crackle around it for additional power. She took a few steps backwards, as she moved her fist back. You might want to keep some distance. Meanwhile, at the other side of the cave, the Akatsuki continued with the extraction ritual, which was on the home stretch already. Our enemies are at the gates of this lair, Zetsu's black half spoke up. They disabled the barrier, and will break in any second. I know. I felt the barrier being dispelled, the low-pitched voice of the leader said. But they're too late, the ritual is almost finished. That's not all. The jinchuriki of the 9 tails is among the rescue group as well, White Zetsu replied. This could be a golden chance to capture the 9 tails' other half. Indeed. Deidara, Sasori, get ready for the incoming fight. Your enemies outnumber you 5-1, but I have faith that won't be a problem, the leader stated. You're right, it won't be one. Let them come, their confidence in their superior numbers will make their fall all the sweeter, Sasori replied. Aw yeah. With this one, it will be 3 out of 3. Nobody in Akatsuki will beat my perfect record, HN. Deidara loudly cheered. You shouldn't fall prey to overconfidence either, Deidara, Obito pointed out. This jinchuriki is a prey tougher than most. Deidara snickered. Hey, just because you and that snake failed so many times to snatch a single brat, doesn't mean that I'm going to follow your path, ha ha. I'll keep your words in mind once we see the result of this fight, Deidara, Obito dangerously said. Suddenly, the boulder blocking the entrance was blown up in thousands of tiny shards. After seeing Hinata's sheer destructive display, all Suna ninja were left with their eyes wide open and their mouths agape. Good work, Hinata-hime. Naruto praised, giving his girlfriend a thumbs up. Hinata giggled in return. Everybody, follow me inside. We have to rescue Gaara. Temari called as she prepared her war fan and rushed inside. Temari's orders seemed to snap the rest of the Suna ninja from their stupor, who nodded and alongside their Konoha allies, broke into the cave. None of them knew what to expect once they got inside, but the image before them wasn't definitely in their minds. The group of 10 saw a massive statue, formed by a head, and 2 arms with their hands pointing upwards. There were 9 eyes on the statue's face, 2 of them opened. On each hand there was an Akatsuki, but 8 of them appeared to be mirages or illusions, with only Deidara and Sasori appearing to be really there. Gaara-sama, Matsuri cried. It didn't take them long to see Gaara floating in mid-air, being held by a mass of chakra coming from the statue's monstrous open mouth. There were wisps of red chakra coming from his mouth and flowing into the statue. Gaara-sama, is he? Mikashi stammered. He's still alive, but just barely. We need to act now, Hinata urged the others. Seeing Gaara in such a state filled Naruto's heart with a rage unlike any other. So this is what the Akatsuki did to Yagura? Harvest his tailed beast, then toss him away as if he was an empty husk? He wasn't going to stand for it. Hey there, brat, good to see you again, HN, Deidara said in a mocking tone to Naruto. Though you came here in vain. You couldn't save Yagura back in Kiri, and you came too late to save this other brat, ha ha. Deidara taunting didn't improve the blonde's mood. However, Naruto didn't just hate the Akatsuki, since there was something that pushed him to hate something else on top of them. He hated that statue as if it was his natural enemy. If his state of mind was clearer, he would realize that he was experiencing the Nine Tails feelings. Either way, it was going to work in his favor. That statue, Naruto yelled, his voice sounded a bit deeper. His eyes turned red, and the marks on his cheeks became bolder. Everybody, focus your attacks on that statue. Everybody nodded and those with ranged jutsu started to make hand seals. Sickle Weasel Jutsu. Wind Release, Wind Scythe. Fire Release, Dragon Fire Jutsu. Lightning Release, Thunder Fang. Temari's Gust of Wind, Matsuri's Wind Blade, Yukata's Stream of Fire and Hinata's lion-shaped lightning blast all flew towards the statue's face, exploding upon making contact. The statue let out an horrifying, bone-chilling scream as the chakra field that held Gaara mid-air vanished, dropping the jinchuriki down below. Fortunately, Naruto was there to catch his friend. The ritual has been interrupted. The only female Akatsuki worriedly stated. It doesn't matter, we sealed most of the one tail, look. The leader pointed out. And at that moment, one of the statue's eyes slowly opened. Were we too late? A disheartened Temari asked. No, Gaara is still alive. Hinata informed the others. But he won't last much longer unless we get him some medical treatment. In that case, let's take him out of here, Kankuro stated. Everybody nodded, and proceeded to rush outside the cave. The leader saw this, and wasn't going to let this happen. Sasori, Deidara, don't let them escape. Capture the jinchuriki, kill everybody else. The Akatsuki leader commanded, as he unsummoned the statue, which disappeared in a poof of smoke. I'll cover your exit, Kurenai said as she made several hand seals. Earth Release, multiple earth-style walls. The Genjutsu mistress slammed her hands into the ground, and several layers of rock walls emerged from the ground, making the cavern tremble when they slammed against the ceiling, separating the Akatsuki from the retreating Konoha and Suna ninja. Well, guess this walls will be a pretty good warm-up for the fight to come, Deidara cheerily said as he prepared some of his bombs. Which one is the jinchuriki, by the way? The angry brat you just taunted, Obito mentioned. Which by the way, seems that you know each other. Care to explain that? Wait, that brat was the jinchuriki? Deidara asked in shock. He was there when I went to fetch the Mizukage. You had another jinchuriki in your grasp, and you let him go? Sasori asked, his tone between disappointed and taunting. Hardly unbelievable. Shut it, HN. Should I remind you that I captured 2 of the 3 jinchuriki so far? I'm the only one here with a perfect record. 2 out of 2. And soon, it will be 3 out of 3. We hope you're speaking the truth, Deidara. I'll be waiting your report, the leader said, before his spectral avatar vanished, followed by the avatars of the other 7 Akatsuki not being there. With a well-aimed set of explosions, the first wall was down. Deidara then prepared another set of explosive clay figurines, while Sasori started to think about something he didn't pay much attention before. So it was true. The jinchuriki's siblings were in that group. How? They should be dead by now. And far from that, they were in good enough condition to fight. How did they manage to create an antidote for my poison? No medic nin on this world should be able to do that, was Orochimaru right? Meanwhile, on the shallow river outside the cave, everybody else was gathered around Gaara, lying on the wet floor, with Hinata kneeled before him, healing him as best as he could, Byakugan active. How is he? Will you be able to save him? Kankuro asked, biting his lip. I'll try. He's still alive, but his chakra network is quickly breaking down. Even if he still has some traces of tailed beast chakra inside his body, the damage caused by the extraction was too much. What can we do, then? A concerned Temari asked. Hinata looked at her boyfriend. Naruto-kun, he needs a chakra transfer. Alright. The blonde nodded and kneeled beside Gaara as well before touching the redhead's midsection and started pouring his own chakra into him. Hey, you don't know if Temari was about to ask before Hinata interrupted her. Naruto-kun is an universal chakra donor. Besides, with his massive chakra reserves, there won't be a problem for the donor to risk chakra exhaustion. Hinata quickly replied. The exchange was brought to a halt by a massive explosion coming from inside the sealed cave, that made the area around it tremble. A wave of dust and dirt was expelled from the cave's mouth, indicating that the Akatsuki had finally broken Kurenai's multiple layered barrier. From the cloud of dust emerged Deidara and Sasori, the former on top of a large clay bird, the latter on foot. I don't think we'll be able to run away with those two here, Maki grimly noted. How much time do you need until Gaara is out of danger? I don't know how long it will take us. As much time as you can. Hinata pleaded. Maki nodded, and alongside the rest of the group, prepared for the immediate clash with the Akatsuki. I don't know how you two are still alive, Sasori said, his eyes focused on Temari and Kankuro, while he pulled out a scroll from underneath his cloak. But I'm going to correct that mistake right now. Yes. You're about to witness such an epic art display, it will blow you away. Deidara added with a loud snicker. And with that horrible pun, the second clash against Sasori and Deidara began. Chapter 54. Battle of the Artists. Or artists that can't take criticism. For a moment, time froze as both parties stared at each other. Naruto and Hinata kept focused on keeping Gaara alive, while the rest of his Konoha and Suna friends placed themselves around them in a protective formation. The Akatsuki's intentions were very easy to read. Not that it would help them anyway. Deidara grinned, and time continued flowing normally. I'll go for the jinchuriki. Sasori, take care of the trash, Deidara said as his birds started to fly faster around the blonde ninja. Why I'm always the one who has to deal with the others. I'd like to fight a jinchuriki myself just once, the rogue puppeteer sighed. Shit, Naruto and Hinata are like sitting ducks, I have to keep this Akatsuki away from them. Kurenai thought as she frantically started to make hand seals. Oh come on, you're pretty good at keeping them at bay, Deidara replied as he formed several smaller clay birds from the mouths in his hands. Let's start this. However, before he could drop his bombs on the targets below, several massive snakes burst from the ground around them and lunged at the flying Akatsuki with their jaws wide open, their large fangs dripping poison. Shit! Deidara loudly yelled as he maneuvered his bird to avoid the out-of-nowhere giant reptiles. Where did these things came from? I didn't see anybody summon. Hey, wait a minute. The blonde Akatsuki made a hand seal and with a burst of chakra, Kurenai's quick genjutsu was undone. Deidara looked rather pissed for falling for such a trick. Push the Akatsuki away from Naruto and Hinata, Kurenai shouted. Ha! I'd like to see you try. Deidara boasted. However, unbeknownst to him, the genjutsu, while short-lived, had already made its job and created an opening. A cold wind started to blow from above. What the? Looking above, he saw Haku coming from what appeared to be a portal made of ice floating in mid-air. His hands were grabbing a bunch of senbon each and tossed at the Akatsuki as he fell. From such short distance, all of them found their mark. Arg! Deidara screamed in pain. You son of a bitch. Haku gracefully landed on the clay bird, forcing Deidara to take a step back. You almost killed both me and lots of innocents in Kirigakura a year ago. I'm here to repay you in kind, Haku firmly stated, as an ice sword formed on his right hand. Well, thanks you for telling me that. I hate to leave a piece of art incomplete, Deidara said, thrusting his arm forward. A small insect made of clay flew from under his sleeve towards Haku. The ice ninja instinctively jumped backwards, just as the insect exploded, engulfing him in a small but nevertheless lethal explosion. Haku, Kurenai cried. But much to the Jonin's relief, a mirror made of ice formed beside her and Haku stepped out of it. That was close, Haku breathed in relief. We must be careful, that guy is even more dangerous than I remember. Understood. Both you, Temari and Maki's students should try to bring him down with ranged jutsu. Maki, Kankuro and myself will face Sasori, Kurenai stated, as she looked at the rest of the group, looking for their approval. All of them nodded in agreement. All right then, in that case, let's go. As the group split, Kurenai, Maki and Kankuro prepared to fight Sasori, who looked rather nonchalant and even relaxed. He fixed his eyes on Kankuro, ignoring the two women. You should be dead, Sasori repeated. Before I'll kill you, I'll make you say how did you manage to counter my poison. Guess now you regret not killing us when you had the chance, right? Kankuro replied, as he reached for scroll underneath his clothes, and unsealed Tamatsu. It's time for round 2. Sasori cast a curious glance on Kankuro's shield-wielding puppet. I've never seen that puppet in my life. A creation of yours? Sasori asked, but didn't give Kankuro the chance to answer. You see, one does not reach true mastery of puppetry ninjutsu until you create your own puppet. When I was your age, I had already created dozens of them, and my collection just expanded ever since. But yes, now that you finally stopped use those outdated puppets I created so long ago, you might become a worthwhile challenge. Don't forget about us. Kurenai called, upset at being ignored. I'd never think in doing that, Sasori said with a painfully fake smile, as he held up the scroll he had pulled out earlier. Now, prepare to see one of my most cherished creations. I don't use it that much, so consider yourselves lucky to see it, before I use it to send you to hell. Sasori unsealed the puppet, who appeared to be one with a vaguely human-looking face, whose entire body was covered in a long, dull brown coat. Maki gasped upon seeing it, while Kankuro and Kurenai remained unfazed. I can't believe it, Maki stammered. So, do you recognize him? Sasori replied, as his grin grew wider. Guess that the other two, one being so young, and the other not from Suna, it doesn't ring a bell. Why don't you enlighten them, Kunoichi-san? Yeah, what's with that puppet? Kurenai asked, noticing her Suna counterpart growing pale. That's the third Kazekage. Maki finally managed to say. Even if she didn't meet the man in person, she had seen numerous pictures of him in history books. Yes, he is. You could consider him the masterpiece of my art collection, Sasori replied, his voice consumed in delight. He found about my defection, and personally came to confront me. He probably knew I was too powerful for anybody but him to fight. And he was right, to an extent, given the results, hee. But enough talking, let's begin this already. Chakra threads shot from Sasori's fingers, attaching themselves to several points in the back of the third Kazekage. With a hand motion, the puppet flew at an amazing speed towards Kurenai, who scrambled to adopt a defensive stance. You go first, Sasori yelled, as he made a swift hand motion. A cluster of blades appeared on the Kazekage's right arm, which were brought down onto the startled Genjutsu mistress. However, they didn't sink into her flesh, but clashed against a hard, metallic surface of Tamatsu's large shield. Mechanical light shield block. Tamatsu's chakra, enhanced shield struggled against the Kazekage's blades. Eventually, the former won, and with a burst of chakra, the latter puppet was pushed back. Not bad. Not bad at all, Sasori admitted, and with a flick of his pinky finger, a long, jagged katana appeared on the Kazekage's left hand. Let's do it again. With a hand motion, the Kazekage skyrocketed forward, not choosing any target in particular. Sasori probably wanted to surprise his target at the last second and give them no chance to react. Kankuro, however, wasn't going to allow that. Like hell I'm gonna let you. Kankuro replied, making a finger motion. Tamatsu's shield horizontally split in two. The upper half split into two parts once again, and bended forward. From the resulting slot, a barrage of kunai with explosives attached to them fired forward. Sasori was forced to pull back his puppet in order to avoid the ensuing explosions. And that's not all. Kankuro added, with another finger motion. Tamatsu rose its other arm, and two small cannons appeared at its sides. The guns fired two kunai with ropes attached, that flew towards the retreating Kazekage in a wide arc. The kunai successfully tied themselves around the puppet's arms, immobilizing it. Come on, now, Kankuro shouted. Ignore the puppet. Attack Sasori. Kurenai and Maki nodded and rushed forward. Kurenai made hand seals, while Maki unfolded a large scroll made of cloth. Earth Release, Stone Dragon Jutsu. A giant serpentine dragon made of earth and stone burst from the ground, arching over the third Kazokage and lunged at Sasori, with its jaws wide open. Sasori did the most logical thing, dropped his puppet and jumped to avoid the earth jutsu. However, while he was mid-air, Maki chose that moment to attack. Cloth Binding Jutsu. As if it was alive, the cloth scroll unfurled on its own and flew towards Sasori. However, a blade appeared from the Akatsuki's sleeve and used it to slash the incoming cloth before it could wrap around him. Realizing he was wide open, Kurenai and Kankuro moved to attack once again. However, Sasori's reflexes were faster than the two of them anticipated, as he shot chakra threads towards Tamatsu. Oh shit, not again. Kankuro cursed, remembering his disastrous fight against Fu in Konoha's tuning exams. However, Sasori wasn't interested in stealing Kankuro's puppet. With a hand motion, he forced the puppet to slam against the unsuspecting Kurenai. The genjutsu mistress crashed against the ground, making a splash upon impacting against the shallow water. Wasting no time, Sasori regained control of the third Kazekage, and with a flick of his finger, he made his puppet to open its mouth, releasing a purple gas that quickly covered him completely. Watch out! Sasori's poison is something you don't want inside your body. Kankuro warned the two kunoichi. How can he survive inside the toxic cloud? Kurenai asked. Maybe he has an antidote. Or purposefully build immunity towards his own poisons in case they were used against him, Maki guessed. It was a common tactic employed by ninja who used poison weapons. He's using that poison cloud as a way to build time. Should I blow that poison away with a wind jutsu? Kurenai suggested. Kankuro shook his head. If you do that, you'll spread the poison around. Let him have this round. We can use the small reprieve to regain our breath. Don't worry, the poison mist should dissipate soon. Meanwhile, not far from there, the rest of the Konoha and Tsunade ninja were trying, without much success, fighting against the flying Deidara on the ground. Wind release, wind scythe. Matsuri crossed her arms, before spreading them in a wide arc, releasing a sharp wind blade at the aerial Akatsuki. This time, it graced one of the clay bird's wings. Not bad, girly. Keep trying, and maybe you'll hit me before I die of old age, HN. Deidara mocked, as he prepared more of his clay figurines. As a reward for your tenacity, you can enjoy my art. Deidara started to fly in a circle at a fast speed, dropping his clay figurines, which exploded upon hitting the ground. Let's wait until he flies close to the ground. That way, our chances to hit him will be greater, Mikashi suggested. The problem is, he knows he has to keep some distance if he wants to retain his advantage, Haku replied. He won't come down on his own. Then we will force to. Temari energetically insisted. Continue with the attack. Let's goad him into attacking us. I figured out a weakness to his jutsu. As you say, Temari-sama, Yukata obediently replied as she made several hand seals. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. The black-haired kunoichi fired a wide volley of fireballs at the flying Akatsuki. Deidara was forced to actually maneuver to dodge them rather than casually fly aside. While he was busy doing that, Haku decided to attack. Ice release, piercing icicle shot. Using the shallow water that covered the ground, Haku created a spear made of ice, and lunged it at the dodging Deidara. Though rather than dodge the ice projectile, he opted to destroy it by tossing an exploding clay figurine at it. Oh, getting bolder, are you? Deidara asked, less amused than before. Okay then, let me show you how below my level you bunch of nobodies are. Once again, Deidara dropped several of his explosive clay figurines as he swooped above the group of Konoha and Tsunade ninja. Just like Temari was expecting. The blonde kunoichi prepared her war fan for a counterattack. Now, feel my R. Great sickle weasel jutsu. Temari blew her fan, creating a powerful gust of wind that flew upwards, and while it did so, pushed Deidara clay bombs back towards him, which were about to explode. Oh, she, the Akatsuki cursed, before his voice was muffled by a chain of explosions. Temari watched expectantly from above, but much to her disappointment, the Akatsuki and his artificial flying steed came out from one of the clouds of smoke with only a few minor burns. A snarl of fury appeared on his previously confident face. You dare use my art against me? Oh, such insult won't be left unanswered, you bitch. Deidara hollered from above, as he prepared his next move. Meanwhile, Naruto and Hinata continued working on keeping Gaara alive, the former pumping his own chakra into Gaara's system, while the latter keeping his body from shutting down with the mystical palm jutsu. Hinata was starting to grow desperate, something that didn't go unnoticed by her boyfriend. Hinata Heim? Naruto asked. Something wrong? No matter how much I try, his body doesn't heal. While I can keep him alive, the moment we leave his side, he will die, Hinata cried, much to Naruto's shock. But there has to be something we can do, Naruto shouted back. We managed to catch Gaara in time. Please don't tell me it was all for nothing. I'm trying but, I don't know what to do. If Tsunade-sama was here. Hinata moaned. Naruto cursed under his breath. He was almost going to let go of the chakra flow, but managed to keep it steady. We did interrupt the extraction, this shouldn't be happening. Gaara still has some traces of tailed beast chakra inside his system, Hinata pointed out. But they're fading as we speak. If we could reinvigorate that chakra. Do you think that if I use the 9 tails chakra, it would boost the 1 tails chakra and save Gaara? Naruto asked, sounding now more hopeful. Hinata took a few seconds to ponder the answer, before he finally nodded. I don't know much about tailed beast's chakra, but if it's similar to our own, I think it could work. Alright then. Naruto cheered, before closing his eyes. This shouldn't take too long. After a second, Naruto opened his eyes, and he was no longer in the shallow river in front of the Akatsuki hideout, even if there was water at his feet. In front of him was the massive jail gate that kept the strongest of the tailed beasts trapped within his being. Hey, Kyuubi, Naruto shouted, but got no answer. I know you're not asleep, so stop pretending you are. A loud grumble echoed through the chamber, as the sound of a massive body shifting and steps getting closer filled the area. Soon, Naruto saw the head of the fox behind the bars. What do you want, brat? The Nine-Tails asked. I need you to loan me some of your chakra, really quick, Naruto demanded. Let me think about it. The Kyuubi pretended to consider his request. I thought about it. The answer is no. Now scram. Come on, Naruto insisted. It's very important. A matter of life or death. If you don't give me some of your chakra, Gaara will die. The Nine-Tails grumbled, as he rested his head over his crossed paws. The life of Shukaku's jinchuriki is of no concern to me. Please. Naruto begged, but the Nine-Tails didn't reply. An idea then formed inside Naruto's head. It was a big gamble, but it was worth trying. You know, I admit that I'm not the brightest person around. Your honesty is touching, brat, the Kyuubi snarked. But I'm not as dense to not realize what's going on with somebody who literally lives inside me, Naruto continued. Just like I noticed your reaction to the Valley of the End, I also noticed the way you reacted when I saw the statue they were using to store captured tailed beasts. The Kyuubi's eyes were wide open for a split second, but Naruto noticed his guest's reaction, and grinned. It may work yet. You know what that statue is, do you? Naruto asked the Kyuubi, sounding bolder. That's none of your business. The fox roared back. I also have the impression that, as much as you hate being inside me, you'd hate a million more times being sealed there, am I right? Naruto asked. What is your point, brat? The Kyuubi impatiently shouted. If you don't help me save Gaara, I'll hand myself to the Akatsuki, Naruto replied, and his grin grew wider upon seeing fear in the Kyuubi's eyes. And you'll be sealed there. How does that sound? You wouldn't dare to do that. The Kyuubi shouted, sounding both angry and genuinely scared. If you do that, you'll die. Naruto shrugged. We all have to die someday. Well, at least, we humans do. It's a bluff. Nobody would be stupid enough to do something like that. The Kyuubi roared. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that a challenge? The Kyuubi grit his sharp teeth, as it growled menacingly at Naruto, before deciding that it was better not to test the blonde's idiocy. Alright, you win, the Nine-Tails conceded. What do you need of me? Gaara still has some of his beast's chakra inside his body, but it's too weak. I need your chakra to reinvigorate it, Naruto explained. A wave of red-colored chakra came from within the cage, and washed over Naruto, who immediately felt the power of the fox coursing through his chakra system. That should be enough, the Kyuubi snarled as he walked to the back of his cage. Now leave me alone. However, Naruto didn't leave. Not just yet. Hey, Kyuubi? He called. What? The tailed beast hollered back. An earnest smile formed in the blonde's mouth. He gave the Kyuubi a thumbs up. Thanks a lot. I will never forget this. The Kyuubi remained silent for a few seconds, looking almost surprised by the blonde's reaction. He quickly gave up trying to understand the human's reasoning, and returned to the darkness of his prison. Bah, whatever. Now disappear if you know what's good for you. A veil of fiery red chakra formed around Naruto, and that same chakra started to flow into Gaara as well. Rather than mold his own chakra to fit Gaara's, he molded the Kyuubi's chakra to fit the One-Tail's. In a few seconds, Gaara was covered in the same red cloak of pure energy as well. It's working. An elated Hinata cried. The Kyuubi's chakra is boosting the One-Tail's chakra as you guessed. As the process continued for a couple minutes, Hinata saw how Gaara's chakra network finally stabilized thanks to the few remaining bits of the One-Tail's chakra, and his health returned back to normal. Confident with her work, Hinata stopped applying the mystical palm jutsu. Taking that as a hint, Naruto also stopped the chakra transfer. Did we? Naruto tentatively asked. Hinata smiled brightly, and nodded. Yes. Gaara-san, while still weak, is out of danger now, she said, before explosion rocked the entire place. Or all the out of danger he can be with those two around. Even if I doubt Akatsuki still has any interest in Gaara, I'll take him somewhere safe. I'll return as soon as I can, Naruto stated as he tossed Gaara's unconscious form over his shoulder. Hinata nodded. I'll go help Kurenai-sensei with the puppet master. I doubt I'd be of much help against the flying one, she said as she watched her boyfriend leave with the unconscious Gaara. Through her Byakugan, Hinata could see that in the fight against Sasori, the rogue puppeteer was dominating the battle, with the two Suna and one Konoha ninja mostly defending themselves from his attacks rather than trying to attack. So far the Akatsuki was pretty focused on the combat. Hinata was sure he could deal a blow without him noticing. And sometimes, one blow it's all what it's needed to finish a battle. Hinata looked down at the shallow water, and frowned. With all this water, I can't use lightning jutsu without a huge risking of harming the others. This is like fighting on those rice fields all over again. Gentle fist only, I guess. Two blue flaming lions made of chakra appeared on Hinata's hands as she rushed towards the cloaked puppeteer. The splashes her steps were making when touching the water would make an stealthy attack impossible, but if she attacked from behind, it would force Sasori to address her and turn his back to her teammates, and use that window of opportunity to attack. Twin lion fists. As expected, Sasori already moved to dodge Hinata's attacks a couple seconds before the Hyuga was even close to hand range. However, Sasori didn't use his puppet to defend himself against Hinata, but merely sidestepped, and jumped back into the side, so he could have all four ninja within his range of vision and attack. The redhead smiled at Hinata. Oh, a Hyuga, Sasori softly said, as his smile grew wider. What a lucky find. Let me guess, you want my eyes, right? Hinata asked as she adopted a fighting stance. That's not going to happen. Sasori just shook his head. Oh, no. You misunderstood me. While your eyes are indeed very valuable, that's not the only thing that interests me. No, I want your whole body. That way, I can make a puppet out of you. I always love to make a puppet of my victims that have a powerful bloodline limit, just like the Kazekage here. You'll make a fine addition to my collection. As interesting as such offer sounds, I have to turn it down. I'm not planning on becoming one of your toys, Hinata replied. Though, as she focused on the Akatsuki in front of her, she noticed something she had overlooked at first. Wait a minute, you aren't even human. You're a puppet too. Kurenai, Kankuro and Maki were a bit confused by such revelation. Sasori, meanwhile, chuckled lightly. The Byakugan is sure useful to spoil surprises, Sasori replied, shaking his head in mock disappointment. But yes, I am a puppet. I have transcended my humanity, and become a form of art myself. A body that doesn't age, doesn't rot, is easy to repair. Not all your body is a puppet. I do see living tissue, Hinata pointed out. Yes. Sadly, I can't become a full puppet without losing my ability to use chakra. That's why I had to keep a little piece of my former self untouched, the puppeteer mentioned. You're sick, Hinata replied in disgust. Though whatever you wanted to accomplish by mutilating your body, it won't help you against us. We'll see then, Sasori said, making a finger motion. Thousand hands manipulation force. Several compartments opened on the Kazekage's left arm, revealing several storage seals. From said seals, a large number of long puppet arms emerged, all of them ready to smash Hinata. The Hyuga, however, had a fitting counter in her arsenal. Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hinata started to move her palms forward in a pushing manner, so fast they became blurry, releasing thin streams of chakra from the palm of her hands, effectively countering the incoming mechanical arms coming at her. Interesting ability. Sasori praised, not realizing Maki rushing forward, scroll of cloth in her hands. Cloth binding jutsu. Once again, the cloth Maki was holding flew as if it had life on its own, and tightly wrapped itself against the massive arms. Quickly, now. The Suna Kunoichi called. Hinata and Kurenai nodded, and both rushed towards Sasori. Each one of them pulled several kunai with explosive notes attached to them, and ignoring the puppet, they tossed them at the red-headed Akatsuki. With a flick of his finger, the massive arms detached from the Kazekage, and both it and Sasori jumped backwards. Mechanical light shield block. A shield of chakra formed around the Kazekage, protecting both the puppet and Sasori from the chain of explosions. Following that, several pipes emerged from the puppet's chest, tearing holes in the dull brown cloak it was wearing. The pipes fired multiple kunai, prompting all the women to jump aside. No. Deflect them, don't dodge. Kankuro called out, using his puppet to protect himself from the projectiles. Too late, Sasori stated, with a confident smirk. Like before, the kunai had ninja wire attached to them, and Sasori used it to maneuver around the three kunoichi. While Hinata and Kurenai were able to avoid or downright cut the wire before it trapped them, Maki wasn't so lucky, and the wire wrapped itself around her legs. No, Maki cried, as she fell to the ground, while being pulled towards the puppet. Got you. Sasori cheered, and his grin grew more sadistic as he made a couple of finger motions. And the real fun beings now. Kurenai and Hinata were quick to help Maki, but were forced to stop and take a step back when they saw what Sasori did next. Another pipe burst from the puppet's chest, and expelled a stream of purple gas. Maki was soon engulfed by a purple poisonous cloud. Don't breathe that gas. It's a deadly poison. Kankuro warned the Konoha kunoichi. Hinata then pulled out something from her ninja toolbox. Kankuro could see it was some sort of capsule with a yellow liquid on it. Hinata tossed it inside the cloud. Thanks to her Byakugan, he could see that Maki caught it. Maki-san, that's an antidote for Sasori's poison. Inject it into your bloodstream, and you'll be immune to the poison for the next 3 minutes. Hinata told the Suna kunoichi. What? Sasori asked in shock. You made an antidote for my poison? How? It couldn't be possible. No one can, it's impossible. Hinata couldn't help but smile a little at Sasori's shock. Like Naruto-kun used to say, impossible only means it hasn't been done yet. A couple of soft snapping sounds signaled that Maki had finally cut the wires that were immobilizing her. Sealing art, cloth binding armor. Huh? Sasori dumbly asked. Maki then jumped out of the cloud of poisonous gas. She was now covered in one long piece of cloth which wrapped around her body and limbs, leaving only her eyes exposed, which gave her the appearance of a mummy. While she was mid-air, she made a single hand seal. Multiple cloth razor whips. Like the name of the jutsu implied, many whips made of cloth emerged from under Maki's bandage, and lashed at both the Kazekage puppet and Sasori. The redhead jumped aside, as he maneuvered his puppet into dodging or cutting the incoming cloth with the multiple blades on its right arm. However, Maki managed to wrap one of her cloth whips around the base of the arm, and pulled, leaving the puppet unable to move. How did you? A dumbstruck Sasori asked. A buzz saw appeared on the puppet's left arm where its forearm used to be, and moved it to cut the binding cloth. Quickly, now! Maki called. Kankuro maneuvered Tomatsu forward, ready to smash Sasori's puppet with a brutal shield bash. However, the Kazekage's right arm detached from its body, allowing Sasori to move the puppet once again. Kankuro shot a thread of chakra at the discarded arm full of blades, and tossed it backwards as far as he could so the Akatsuki couldn't reattach it later. The Kazekage fired several smoke bombs, covering the zone in one big, mist-like gray cloud, while it moved towards Hinata, whom for some reason gave Sasori the feeling that she was the most dangerous of his 4 opponents. The arm with the buzz saw came down. Heavenly spin. Hinata turned into a spinning blue dome of chakra, which incidentally raised gusts of wind that blew the smoke away, and splashing water around. When the buzz saw struck her, the force the Hyuga's jutsu blew the weapon away from the puppet's arm. Foiled, Sasori put some distance between him and his attackers. Having lost both its arms, it seemed that the Kazekage wouldn't be a threat anymore. Seemed being the key word here. Despite appearing to be on the losing side, Sasori's face sported a confident smirk. This didn't sit well with the Konoha and Suna ninjas, who were smart enough to realize that the Akatsuki wasn't simply overconfident. Well, Sasori began, sounding a bit tired. I have to admit that the quality of my current opponents is, at the very least, worth of some respect. Guess I have no choice to use this, but once I do, your chances of winning will be close to 0. Sasori made a hand seal, and the Kazekage opened its mouth with a mechanical click. Black sand started to pour out of it. Maki and Kankuro gasped, immediately recognizing what the puppet was doing, something that didn't go unnoticed by the Akatsuki. Being from Suna, it seems that you're familiar with this ability in particular, am I right? Sasori said with a teasing grin. Why don't you educate your Konoha collaborators, and let them know what they're against? The third Kazekage had a very rare bloodline limit called magnet release, Maki explained, growing more uneasy by the second. Such bloodline can be used to manipulate metals, but it's incredibly hard to master. The Kazekage, trying to imitate the one-tail sand powers, used it to manipulate iron, grind it into fine powder that was called iron sand. Such ability made the third Kazekage the strongest ninja Suna has ever seen. Yet Sasori was able to best him. Hinata squeaked, with a gulp. Wait a minute, if the Kazekage is a puppet, how can he use a bloodline limit? It shouldn't be possible. Kurenai pointed out. That's a good question. A short answer would be that I developed a special process in which the people I turn into puppets retain their special abilities. Otherwise, doing so would be pretty much useless. The process requires the person to be alive while the transformation takes place, which makes it more difficult than it should be. But the results are definitely worth it. You three are worthless, so you won't have the honor to be included in my art collection. Sasori's eyes rested on Hinata, and glinted with a predatory glee. But you, a main house Hyuga, you'll make a lovely puppet. Oh, I can't wait until I can turn you into a work of art. And I can't wait until I can turn you into, Hinata started to trail off. Naruto-kun is much better at this than I am. Anyway, your art career will end today. What's an artist who doesn't welcome some challenge? Sasori asked no one in particular, as he made a hand seal. Let's begin this. Magnet release, iron sand drizzle. The third Kazekage tore part of his already ruined cloak, exposing its chest. A compartment on its left chest opened, revealing some sort of chakra-emitting apparatus. The iron sand floating around him started to gather and compress into hundreds of projectiles. I don't like where this is going, Kurenai said as she started to make hand seals. Earth release, multiple earth-style walls. 3 walls emerged from the ground between the 4 Konoha and Suna ninja, and the Akatsuki and its puppet. I don't think that's going to be enough, Maki stated as she generated 2 long cloth whips from her hands. Hinata also took a step forward, ready to take the attack head-on. With a shout of "Die!" Sasori launched a barrage of iron sand bullets forward. In no time, they shattered the first wall Kurenai had erected. Other 2 barrages, and the walls came down. The next barrage of bullets came soon. Double cloth helix. Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Maki's cloth whip started to spin at high speed, forming 2 cones in front of her that successfully deflected most of the bullets, while Hinata used her custom-made technique to do the same. An impressive defense, Sasori praised, his confidence unwavering. But how long can you keep it up? Kurenai and Kankuro noticed that while he fired the bullets, Sasori was also retrieving the iron sand from the ones he already fired, and compressed them into more bullets that he could fire. He was right, Sasori could go on forever, while Hinata and Maki couldn't. In fact, they were starting to show signs of exhaustion. Shit, I need to do something. Kankuro seethed as he made a hand seal. Shadow clone puppet jutsu. 2 clones of Tamatsu appeared, and the hooded puppeteer took no time to attach chakra strings to them. With a swift motion of both hands, he positioned them in front of Hinata and Maki. Triple mechanical light shield. Tamatsu and its 2 clones used the defensive jutsu in tandem, creating 3 chakra shields that quickly merged into a really big one, successfully blocking the barrage of attacks. This is your chance. Go while I'll cover you, Kankuro stated, as he tried to keep the shield active as long as possible. Maki nodded, and rushed forward, but she was met with an admittedly small barrage of bullets that forced her to step back behind the safety of Kankuro's puppets. Even with this cover, his puppet can attack in multiple directions, Maki said, panting a little. Kurenai-sensei? Hinata asked, looking at the raven-haired woman. Kurenai nodded as she started to make hand seals. I'll provide you a distraction. Sasori saw Maki jumping from her hiding spot behind Kankuro's puppets, and rushed towards the Akatsuki once again. The redhead grinned as he made a hand seal. Quite the bold move, Sasori praised, as he formed iron sand into a spear, which dived at the mummy-looking woman, impaling her in the chest. But foolish. Then much to her shock, Maki burst into smoke, and 2 Makis took her place, which continued her dash towards the now startled Akatsuki. He repeated the process, nailing the 2 Makis, but it only caused them to split again, having 4 enemies to deal with. What kind of jutsu is this? The stupefied redhead wondered, until he realized what was going on. Oh, a genjutsu. Turns out I'm still vulnerable to those. Sasori brought his hands together to form a seal, and with a discharge of chakra, the illusion was broken. That didn't mean that all Makis disappeared, they were simply reduced to 1, who was still charging at him, accompanied by Hinata. With a hand motion, he brought the 3rd Kazekage closer, and issued his next command. Magnet release, iron sand gathering assault. The iron sand formed into multiple, long and thick nails, which rained upon the 2 kunoichi, forcing them backwards. The attack didn't cease, since the Akatsuki wasn't going to let his enemies go on the offensive. A few meters back, the Tamatsu clones disappeared, and Kankuro stopped channeling the protective jutsu through them and started panting heavily. I don't think I'll be able to do that anytime soon, Kankuro said between pants. Can you still fight? Kurenai asked. Kankuro smiled, and nodded. Of course. I still have a few surprises. That Kankuro, however, was taken aback when he found himself unable to move his puppet. The hell? Tomatsu doesn't move. It's like, there's something jamming all its joints. It has to be the iron sand, Kurenai deduced. Guess that Sasori doesn't want you to interfere again. God damn it. The hooded man cursed, stomping his foot on the wet ground. Since the iron sand is connected to that puppet, if we destroy it, yours might be able to move again, the Genjutsu mistress deduced. Let's hope we can do that. I'll try to help you as much as I can, Kankuro said, sadly discarding his now useless puppet. Meanwhile, Sasori continued to bombard Hinata and Maki by dropping large and or sharp iron sand constructs on them, forcing them to stay in the offensive. The two of them were forced to fall back where Kurenai and Kankuro were. This isn't working, Maki realized. His magnet release is way too powerful. There's no way of getting close to Sasori as long as he has the Kazekage. Maybe we've approached this from the wrong perspective, Hinata thoughtfully said. What do you mean? Kankuro asked. We focused on Sasori, because a puppet's weakest part if the ninja controlling it, but what if we focus on destroying the Kazekage first? While it's a good idea, the result would be the same. Even if we focus our efforts on destroying that puppet, we have no ways to surpass the power of the magnet release, Maki explained. Kurenai smiled confidently, realizing what Hinata was suggesting to do. We can, if Sasori thinks we're going to target him, just like we did so far until now. Hinata smiled back, and nodded. Whatever you're planning, it won't work, Sasori said as he and his puppet came closer. I'm already growing bored of this fight. Now, die. The iron sand above him took the shape of several cubes and pyramids. With a hand motion, Sasori started to direct them at the four Konoha and Tsunade ninja. Come on, go, Kurenai urged, as she started to make hand seals. Earth release, Earth Dragon Bullet. In front of Kurenai, a serpentine dragon made of earth and stone emerged, and lunged at the incoming iron sand block. Both constructs were shattered to pieces when they crashed. Undeterred, Sasori sent more constructs towards the incoming trio, but Kurenai kept repelling them with her earth release jutsu. When she felt she was close enough, Maki made a couple hand seals and slammed her fists into the water-covered ground. Feeling a tremor under his feet, Sasori jumped backwards just in time to avoid several sharp cloth whips emerging from underground. The Akatsuki smirked once again. Close, but you'll need to do better than Sasori then realized that he was struggling to pull the Kazekage back. Much to his shock, he saw that Kankuro had attached his own chakra threads to him, and was pulling back. Nothing stops a puppeteer from trying to snatch somebody else's puppet. I learned this during my first Chunin exams, Kankuro boasted, with a grin of satisfaction. This is your chance, Hinata. The Hyuga dashed forward, as chakra lions covered her fists. A scowl formed on the Akatsuki's face as she passed the Kazekage. I'll admit that it was a good plan, but you won't catch me off guard, Sasori replied, making a hand seal, commanding the Kazekage to create a shield of iron sand around him, and waited for Hinata to get closer to skewer her alive. However, Hinata didn't do that. Instead, she suddenly spun over her heels, and with a quick double palm strike, she shattered the Kazekage to pieces. It took a few seconds for Sasori to process what had happened, as the iron sand around him became inert, and fell to the ground. Yes. We did it. We destroyed the Kazekage. Maki loudly cheered. It was something rare for the otherwise soft-spoken woman. You were right, Kurenai-san. Tomatsu works once again. Kankuro cheered as well, happy to recover his puppet. While happy on the inside, Kurenai didn't share the Tsunade ninja's optimism. Sasori was angry, but he didn't look like somebody who was just defeated. Hinata, fall back, the raven-haired woman commanded. Hinata nodded, and did as she was told. The group of four waited intently to see what Sasori would do next, now that his allegedly strongest puppet was nothing but pieces of scrap. I admit that it was quite the impressive tactic. Such teamwork in the heat of the battle is mostly unseen, especially from people belonging to different villages, Sasori genuinely praised, as he started to unbutton his cloak. To think that you even destroyed the third Kazekage, however, diverting my attention by making me think you're going after me and then destroy my puppet won't work with the next one. Don't tell me he is going to. Hinata began, becoming mildly distressed. Sasori then discarded the cloak, confirming his initial suspicions. Everybody gasped. Even if the Hyuga had told them beforehand, seeing it with their own eyes was something else. Underneath the cloak, there was another puppet. 2 poles emerged from the back of his hips, deploying 5 poison-dripped blades. His gut was open, revealing a thick steel cable coiled around a pole instead of intestines. He had 4 scrolls attached to a compartment in his back. On his chest was his core, the only living part of his body left, marked with several red kanji. "Myself," the Akatsuki proudly announced. Meanwhile, not far from there, Deidara continued his fight against the Suna ninja and Haku. After realizing Temari's tactic of blowing his explosives back at him shortly before he detonated them, he had changed tactics, and opted to attack closer to the ground. "I might be more vulnerable to their attacks, but this way, my attacks will have more chances to hit," Deidara thought as he commanded his bird to do a low swoop and prepared more explosive clay figurines. And they won't see this coming. As Deidara approached the Suna ninja, and Haku, Yukata stepped forward and made several hand seals. "I'll stop him before he has any chance to attack," Yukata proudly stated as she prepared her jutsu. "Fire release, Great Dragon Fire." Yukata breathed a stream of fire at the incoming Akatsuki. Deidara quickly tossed a clay figurine at the incoming inferno, which instantly exploded. From the ensuing cloud of smoke and dirt, multiple clay birds flew out in arches, most of them headed towards Yukata. The black-haired girl yelped, as she jumped backwards multiple times, trying to avoid the incoming explosions. Mikashi grabbed a handful of kunai and shuriken, tossed them forward, and made a hand seal. Manipulating attack blades. As if they had life of their own, the kunai and shuriken flew towards the clay birds, impaling most of them to the ground. Yukata was able to avoid the few that exploded, before she fell on her butt. "Ow!" Yukata whimpered, panting heavily. Matsuri walked towards her friend and helped her back on her feet. "That was close. Thank you, Matsuri-chan, Mikashi-kun." Temari blew a small gust of wind with her fan to dispel the smoke of the explosions, and much to her annoyance, Deidara was nowhere to be seen. "Where did he go?" Matsuri asked, gritting her teeth a little. "He's possibly underground. Watch out from attacks from below," Mikashi warned. "That can't be true. If he was underground, there would be a hole," Matsuri protested. True to the bespectacled boy's words, clay creatures started to pop from the ground, and launching themselves at the Suna and Konoha ninja. "Watch out," Haku shouted, tossing 3 senbon at a clay creature that was about to latch onto Matsuri, breaking its momentum, and exploding prematurely. At first, they were able to fend off the creatures reasonably well, but the more they fought, the more they appeared. Haku and Temari realized that some of them didn't explode, got back on their feet, and tried to attack again. If Hinata was here, she could locate Deidara underground and see the creatures before they emerged, Haku thought, as he impaled a small clay creature to the ground with an ice spear. And if Kurenai-sensei was here, she could bring Deidara out with an earth jutsu. But they aren't here. "Come on Haku, think. What can you do that can be of help?" "Everybody, to me," Temari called as she reared her fan backward. The trio of Suna, Chunin and Haku all leapt towards her, with the explosive creatures waddling towards them, forming a large group. Just like Temari wanted. Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu. With all enemies in one spot, Temari was able to blow them away with a powerful gale. However, that proved to be a temporary solution at best, since the creatures got back on their feet, and charged once again. Worse, more creatures continued to pop from the ground. It was then when Haku noticed something. "That's it. All the creatures appear around the same spot," the ice ninja deduced. "That has to be where Deidara hides. They keep coming. Matsuri-chan, what are we going to do?" Yukata cried. Matsuri herself didn't look that confident about their chances either. I don't know. Just keep fighting. He's bound to run out of these things sooner or later." "Temari-san, I think I have an idea," Haku called, while casting a freezing blast at a group of small clay creatures, slowing them down. "They all come from the same spot. Push them against that spot." Temari gasped in realization, before she smirked, realizing what Haku was suggesting. "All right then. Matsuri, I need your help. Use wind attacks to push the clay dolls from where they come from." "Understood, Temari-sama," Matsuri obediently replied. Both kunoichi jumped at opposite sides of the spawning spot so they could surround their enemies before pushing them back. Wind release, breakthrough. Wind release, wind raging wall. As they pushed the clay creatures backwards, the clash of wind jutsu had the unintended effect of creating a tornado that kept them inside, pushing them backwards whenever they tried to walk towards Deidara enemies. "What do we do now?" Matsuri asked. Nothing. Keep blowing. Wait until more clay creatures emerge. Temari ordered. Haku smiled to himself. Temari had quickly realized what was his plan. As more clay creatures emerged, the tornado was having trouble keeping them trapped. The accumulated mass was starting to become too heavy for the current winds. That means it was the time. Matsuri, get away. Yukata, set those bastards on fire. Temari hollered as she jumped backwards. Haku, protect her from the explosion. Yukata nodded and made several hand seals. Fire release, great dragon fire. Once again, Yukata breathed a stream of fire at the gathered clay creatures, causing all of them to detonate, producing a massive explosion that would have made Deidara proud. Haku managed to build around Yukata and himself a sturdy ice barrier that absorbed the shockwave of the explosion. Just like Haku had predicted, Deidara was hidden underground under the spot where the clay monsters were emerging, and that explosion had forced him out, hurling him into the air before he fell with a thud a few meters away from them. This. Deidara grumbled, as he got back on his feet as badly as he could. This is the second time you use my art against me, how dare you, how dare you. The Tsunade ninja and Haku slipped into fighting stances as they watched the Akatsuki shambling towards him. Despite being badly bruised and having numerous burns across his body, none of them were foolish enough to think that he may have one last nasty ace in the hole. That's it, no more playing around. You're about to feel the full power of my art, Deidara shouted as he tossed a clay figurine at his feet. A cloud of smoke enveloped Deidara, and when it disappeared, the Akatsuki was riding another giant clay bird. However, this one was much bigger than the ones he had used before, especially its wingspan, which gave it a majestic appearance. Behold the C3 clay phoenix. Deidara hollered as the clay bird flapped its wings, taking flight, gaining attitude in no time. After quickly flying around in circles a couple times, the phoenix opened its long beak, releasing 2 balls of clay. In a poof of smoke, the balls of clay turned into smaller replicas of its progenitor, but still noticeably bigger than the ones used before. Oh, you still back to that? Temari asked, as she readied her fan. Yeah, I don't like your art, you can have it back. Temari blew a powerful gust of wind once again. However, unlike the other time, the clay creatures weren't pushed back. The artificial birds flapping their wings faster, pushing against the wind current blowing against them. The wind eventually ceased, and clay birds continued their descent. Temari grimaced. Deidara grinned. Take cover. Boom, Deidara shouted, as he made a hand seal. The clay birds exploded, producing a blast much more powerful than his other figurines. While narrowly avoiding the explosion, the Tsunade ninja and Haku were tossed into the ground by the ensuing shockwave. No time to sleep. Deidara hollered, sending another duo of clay birds from his phoenix's beak. I'll stop them this time, Yukata said, making hand seals. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. The black-haired kunoichi breathed a volley of small fireballs from her mouth, that spread in a rather wide arc. The clay birds, however, expertly maneuvered through the fireballs as if there was an intelligence controlling them. However, while they did so, Mikashi prepared his next move. Manipulating attack blades. A foursome of kunai with explosive tags attached to them flew towards the clay creatures. The clay birds managed to dodge them as well, but Mikashi directed them back, and they found their mark. With a hand seal, the bespectacled Tsunade ninja detonated them, destroying their targets. Hey, not bad, Deidara said, as he prepared his next attack. But the next one is going to be wind release, Rasen Shuriken. A loud whirring screech interrupted Deidara ramblings, and much to his surprise, he saw what appeared to be a shuriken made of pure chakra flying at him. His battle instinct screamed to get out of its way. Not having time to maneuver his clay phoenix into dodging it, Deidara opted to jump away. As he fell, he saw the shuriken crash against his clay phoenix, resulting in a massive explosion of wind and chakra. Wow, that was sure something. As he fell, Deidara couldn't suppress a tinge of admiration for the ensuing blast the shuriken produced. Despite the height he fell from, he managed to land on his feet and eyed his opponents. He noticed that there was somebody there who wasn't before. You, Deidara said, outraged. The jinchuriki. Yeah, that would be me, Naruto said with a smirk, flanked by a single clone. He then pointed upwards. And that was my most powerful jutsu so far. I still have enough nature energy for a second one. Except this time around, you won't be able to dodge it. Naruto formed a Rasengan, and his clone started to infuse it with wind chakra, taking the form of a shuriken as he did. Wait a minute, did he said nature energy? Is this fucker a sage? Deidara asked, before noticing the coloration around Naruto's eyes, confirming his doubts. Then there's no way I can defeat him like this, especially with all these people around. Make sure he doesn't escape. Naruto told the others as the jutsu slowly reached completion. It will be you who won't be able to escape. Deidara fired back as he grabbed some of his explosive clay, and ate it with the mouth on his face, instead of the ones in his palms. I have a bad feeling about this. Matsuri began. Deidara then started to bloat as if he was balloon, while laughing maniacally. Ha 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 ha. Let's see how you stop this. There's no way to avoid this explosion. Deidara boasted as he swelled up more and more. Even if you avoid the initial blast, the shockwave will tear apart the land and cause a massive torrent. Is that madman going to blow himself up? Mikashi asked in shock. I'll stop him before he explodes, Naruto said as he prepared to toss his Rasen Shuriken, which had reached completion. No. If you do that, you might trigger the explosion, Haku stated. Then what do we do? It was Matsuri who asked this time around. Another idea dawned upon the ice ninja. Send him high into the air with a wind jutsu. It might be the best way to avoid the after effects of the explosion. Good idea. Come on Naruto, Matsuri, let's do it, Temari said. The blonde jinchuriki and brown-haired girl nodded. Naruto undid the Rasen Shuriken, and the three of them placed themselves around Deidara, surrounding him. 3 wind jutsu came from 3 different directions, clashing against the bloating Akatsuki, producing a powerful tornado that hurled Deidara into the air. Keep going. He's still too close to the ground, Haku urged. The 3 wind ninja poured as much power into their jutsu as possible. However, thanks to Naruto's nature energy, he was able to give his the necessary boost to push Deidara much higher. And a couple seconds later, the Akatsuki exploded in a massive fireball, which started to quickly expand outwards. Everybody, get close to me, Haku yelled as his hands flew through hand seals. Thankfully, the ice ninja created a multi-layered ice barrier around the group in time, which thankfully protected them from the massive blast that Deidara's bloated body produced when it detonated. So, this may sound dumb, but, is he dead? Mikashi asked. Naruto shook his head. No. I'm afraid that was a decoy. I still sense the real Deidara, a kilometer or so to the north. He probably used body replacement with a clone without us noticing. As much as I'd wish to, there's no time to chase him, Haku stated, earning a nod of approval from Naruto. We need to help the others against the other Akatsuki. Alright. This one won't escape, Temari said in determination as she and the rest of the group rushed towards the other battleground. By the way, where is Gaara? Is he okay? Gaara is fine. I left him in a safe place near here, with 2 clones watching over him. We'll get him back once we're done with the Akatsuki, Naruto stated. Whoa, Yukata said in awe, stopping dead in his tracks. What is that? The others stopped as well, catching what the black-haired Suna girl had seen first, a mass of puppets, almost 100, floating above Hinata, Kurenai, Kankuro, and Maki. I'll tell you what that is. Trouble. A big one, Temari deadpanned. Alright guys, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. As always, the rest of the story is already out over on Patreon, link to that will be in the description. Anyways, until next time, peace.